What is up, everybody? Welcome to That Wannabe Film Class, the show where we love movies. So each month we choose a theme and our members bring one movie that fits the theme for us to talk about. Maybe it's a movie they love. Maybe it's a movie they've been dying to see. Maybe it's a movie they just find interesting. I'm Ben Bellevue. I am joined by my co-host, the supervillain seducer herself, Chloe Naylor.
What's up, Ben?
What is up, Chloe? How you doing?
I'm thriving and vibing.
Fun. Lovely.
Totally.
I think it's all we can be doing in this day and age. Honestly, now.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm also joined by special guest for this month, Pixel Brave on the interwebs, Christian Puente in real life. Christian, how you doing?
Hey, man. Just chilling like a villain.
Nice. Christian, for people who don't know you, you are also part of That Nerdy Site. And you used to be the editor for this podcast itself, so your name's come up a couple times. I hope.
I think I remember that. Yeah, I edited the first
in the before time. You know, there's the 2019 era that we all kind of just like forget, and there's the 2020 era that we're all living through on a constant basis, and it feels like forever.
Though, there are so many movies that y'all watched that I had never seen. And so I was watching them for the first time in my mind's eye, because I wasn't going to make time to actually watch National Treasure.
Sure.
But I could, in my mind's eye, as I'm listening to y'all go over the plot. Same for Mamma Mia. I've never seen Mamma Mia, but I feel like I have now because
you got to watch Mamma Mia, man.
And you know what? Because it's a musical, I'm more likely to watch that than anything else. But I will say, like, I want to applaud, just how well y'all tell these stories, because I feel like I'm in the theater. I got my jumbo popcorn, jumbo drink, and I feel like I'm watching it right there with y'all. So y'all have given.
I love that we not only provide you a movie, we also provide you nourishments.
Nice, yes.
That's just how good it is. So,
fantastic.
But now I'm just a fan like everybody else. Now I've let go of the reins. Y'all are editing that, and now I'm editing that anime pod. Yeah.
You are. That's nice. What I was going to ask. Christian, so tell the audience who you are, what you do, where they may know you from.
Yeah. I became friends with Ben and Chloe and Trevor and Frank and everybody else from That Nerdy Site through Kind of Funny. And when we came together, I came on to help out with any video or editing stuff that I needed help with. And also they were nice enough, as well as the patrons, nice enough to help me reach the first tier for Unlocking an Anime podcast. So now I'm also a podcast host for that anime pod.
Nice.
It's been fun. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Fantastic. And you are here this month to talk about our theme being movies from the Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
Chloe's already talked about hers with Armageddon, which is a weird pull for a Criterion movie, but sure.
But it's on brand for me.
It is very on brand for you. I talked about 12 Angry Men. We didn't have a third one because Chloe and I went through hell. Partly because everyone's going through hell because of coronavirus. Also because we were on vacation when that happened. So everything was bad.
Yeah, no, we all kind of took that week off. The whole world collectively.
Was rough.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
But now we have our third movie. Christian, you are our guest. You've chosen this movie. And what is this movie?
Yeah, it's Dazed and Confused from Richard Linklater.
Did I freeze or did everyone else?
Yeah, no.
You froze.
Yeah.
Everyone's freezing.
Oh, no. Yeah,
that's concerning. This is worrying already.
Don't like that.
Nope. For audiences, I just froze, or they just froze. On our ends, people froze. It's fine. We're fine. This is fine.
Y'all are taking turns. Like Ben starts moving, then Chloe moves. It's going back and forth.
Oh,
we love that.
Okay, now y'all are both moving. It's kind of like it's sinking. It's kind of like Pacific Rim. It's like slowly sinking. Now y'all are both moving just normal.
We're both okay.
The multiverse is united. Yeah.
The vibrations are aligning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the only hiccup this recording.
We'll see. It's fine.
We'll see. It's fine.
The nice thing about the coronavirus era of podcasting and content creation is that now that people who do this professionally, normally in like a singular setting, also have to do this, they're all learning how to do it. So we comparatively look better because everyone's a mess now.
True. Very true.
Yeah. So we're like Christian said, I assume I couldn't actually hear.
Yes,
We're talking about Dazed and Confused.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Christian, you chose Dazed and Confused. What made you choose this movie? Why is this movie important to you?
Well, I mean, there's also just first off, there's the surface level. It's a really groovy, chill kind of vibe movie. And, you know, in these dark times, we need something that's just a little light, you know?
Yeah.
But also I kind of wanted to give it a shout out because this is the movie that introduced me to Criterion. I'd seen this movie before on TV and like at family members' house. Like I had my own versions of the seniors when I was like younger, you know, people that had me under their wing, and they would show me these movies, and including this one. But I hadn't actually ever made the time to stop and buy it anywhere. But one day I was just at a video store and I saw this, like, I don't know if y'all have seen the package for this, but it's really cool. It's like red, white, and blue, and like it looks like a sketched up maybe your high school notebook after you've doodled and put stickers all over kind of thing. Like it really popped. And I picked it up and I was like, oh, this is Dazed and Confused. And it said Criterion Collection, and that's kind of like, well, that was the first clue I got. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole, like, oh, whoa, there's this whole library of movies that I guess this organization is just like, hey, these are really cool. Go check them out. And I mean, I always really enjoyed the movie, but when I first watched it, I didn't realize that it was also like renowned. Like I liked it, like just because it was a fun movie. Like I didn't know that it had been, you know, critically received well or anything
culturally
like that.
significant.
Yeah, or anything like that, or cult classic, anything like that. I just liked it just because of what it was. And so it was cool to see, oh wow, there's this whole branch of people over there that are like giving hella props, and they found this one and we're like, hey, we recognize that too. It didn't seem like the kind of movie, like I wouldn't have guessed Armageddon was on the Criterion Collection, for example. But hey, these people just recognized, real recognized real. And they were like, hey, Armageddon, Dazed and Confused, we fucks with these, you know? And so
look, if Michael Bay can have 2 Criterion Collection movies.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and so now I really enjoy checking out the Criterion Collection stuff and seeing what movies are out there. And yeah, Dazed and Confused was the first one that got me started on that.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
And we're going to talk about this later, but also it is kind of like I have a special like relationship with it because it's shot in here in Texas, and like a lot of the scenes are in Austin. So like it's kind of like it makes me proud. Austin really wanted to be the third Hollywood in the US, and it didn't exactly reach that, but like this is kind of like one of the movies that helped get that first push started on like trying to really get attention out here.
And they've got their indie scene. They're making their moves. Yeah. They definitely haven't like. I mean, I realize I'm explaining that I'm talking about this and you live there, so I'm sure, and you work in film there, so I'm sure you have a much better grasp on that scene than I do. But they're more impressive than I would expect a small city in Texas to be in terms of film.
Hey, I'll take it.
I was out there a couple years ago, and I got my group that I was there with. We got a tour of like the Austin public access place where like, and they're like, oh yeah, like people can come check out film equipment for free or like for a small
it's all really quaint
fee. And it's quaint, and it's like a good way for people who normally don't have access to this kind of stuff to be able to make things. And that's super cool. So even if it is like more of like a place to build yourself up than a place to like generally be a filmmaker, be like a professional filmmaker, it's so cool that people there have like access to the equipment to make their first film and stuff like that. And we owe a lot of that to the director of this movie, Richard Linklater. Yeah. Which we will get to in a moment. But first, Chloe.
Yeah.
What did you know about Dazed and Confused? Have you seen it? Did you have opinions of it? Did you know anything about it?
Knew nothing about it, didn't know it existed until you text me like, hey, here's the movie for next week.
Awesome.
I'm like, okay, cool. Had no idea what it was.
Your knowledge of movies is not like actually strange because like it's a cult movie, like Christian was saying. But as someone who exists so much in the film scene, your knowledge of movies is so weird to me.
It's very it's weird. It's weird. You can say it's weird because it is.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like my sister didn't know what it was either, so it's not like, oh, like you don't know anything about movies. It's just like when you're in the film world, Dazed and Confused. I hadn't seen it until now, but it's a movie that a lot of people at least know of.
You hadn't seen it until now either?
No.
Oh, wow.
I watched it for the first time today. Yeah.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
It's always been on my list of like, oh, I need to get around to that. But there's too many movies in the world. If it weren't for like randomly
catching it on TV, I wouldn't have caught it either because it is a bit older, you know, but it has that it has that kind of, it reminds me of like a Christmas Carol, and like how, you know, when that or Christmas Story, that always gets played around Christmas. Like this movie was just always randomly on, like on weekends and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get that. I feel like it isn't my family's vibe. So I feel like that's probably why I never ended up seeing it. So Chloe, did you just have did you have like no thoughts? Did you hear the name Dazed and Confused and you're like, oh, like no impressions, or you just turned it on and
I looked it up and was like, coming of age. I'm like, okay, cool. So the vibes will be there. And they sure were.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to talk about it then.
Yeah.
Before we dive into that, though, let's talk a little bit about the crew. Like I said, this movie is written and directed by Richard Linklater. Richard Linklater is very significant to the Austin film scene, as I'm sure Christian is aware and Chloe is not. She's making a face to suggest no, but not saying anything.
Well, I don't know. I thought you were going to continue talking, so I was
giving you
reacting.
A moment.
Okay, well, thank you. No.
A little background on Richard Linklater. He went to state school and then dropped out to work on an oil rig. Look at these connections to Armageddon we have here. Ben Affleck's in this movie. Richard Linklater worked on an oil rig.
Oh my God.
Everything's connected, man.
This is the real hidden universe. This is the...
Yeah. He moved back to Texas where he discovered his love for film and then went to Austin Community College in 1984. In 1985, he founded the Austin Film Society along with his frequent director of photography collaborator, Lee Daniel, and some more like film critics and like film professors in the Austin area. Austin Film Society, as I'm sure Christian can attest, is pretty significant in the Austin scene.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know too much about them because they're like on the far end of the city, so I don't touch that area. But you can't not hear about the Austin Film Society. They, from what I understand, they have I don't know if they're the same as Austin Studios, but I think they either own the Austin studio, the major Austin studio that gets used here, or they work very much in partnership with the film studios that we have here in Austin. But they also provide like a lot of like the educational opportunities for UT students. Like I think they provide like all the internships and stuff like that. And I think they have a relationship with Rooster Teeth. Maybe I feel like I know that. I feel like I hear that that's a thing. Just like they're like the main central hub for film. And so anything in Austin that touches film, whether it's Robert Rodriguez's studio, Richard Linklater's, or Rooster Teeth, anything kind of production wise, film, like the Austin Film Society, I feel like has kind of a hand in that, or at least a lot of circles touching. And they also I think they also show curated films to you, like something similar to Criterion Collection, like, hey, these are Austin Film Society selects, and they screen those. And I think also provide like just opportunities for people to get kind of a little bit of work in the industry. No, that's from the research I've done, that's completely accurate. They started as just like playing a selection of like obscure or hard to find movies. And then that was how Linklater started it. And then it grew into more things. Austin Studios, as you mentioned, is probably the biggest thing they've done. They created Austin Studios. And I believe Richard Linklater was the one really spearheading that. And the big thing Austin Studios did, I'm only like respecifying it because it'll make Chloe actually interested, is they converted the abandoned Austin airport, because the new Austin airport had been built, into movie studios using a lot of the old hangars as studios. Chloe, does any of this sound familiar? The idea of a airport hangar being used as a studio?
Funny. Have you ever heard of this company called a Chicken Tooth or something like that?
Chicken Feet.
Chicken Feet. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So Chicken Feet is based out of one of the hangars that was created by Austin Studios. So they basically, I'm assuming they lease their studio from Austin Studios. So Rooster Teeth owes its current spread to Richard Linklater.
Interesting.
Yeah. I went to those studios a couple of years ago too, when I did the whole tour thing, and it was cool. They really are just giant ass hangars.
They really are. It's cool there.
Yeah. A lot of movies have been filmed there. I know they were talking a lot about Alita Battle Angel when I was there, because they were filming like special effect shots. I know I don't know why I almost called you Pixel Brave. Christian, you have a special connection with Alita, right?
Yeah. I got to be an extra in it, and that was really fun.
That's awesome.
I got pushed by Christoph Waltz. But that scene didn't
That's
make
the dream.
It didn't make it into the movie. I was so sad.
It doesn't matter. You know in your heart of hearts that Christoph Waltz has touched you.
Yeah.
So that's Richard Linklater.
Mm-hmm.
He has made a lot of movies that are pretty critically acclaimed. Oh, the Austin Film Society also gives out a grant. And up to this point, it has given out $1.6 million in film grants since 1996 to people trying to make movies in the Austin area, which is also very cool.
You go AFS.
Dazed and Confused is Linklater's third movie, but his first big budget one and his second like semi-major release one. The movie before Dazed was Slacker, which was made for $23,000. Dazed cost millions of dollars, so pretty big jump for him there. He did more indie films after this before getting into some mainstream stuff. He did Bad News Bears, but most notably of his early mainstream work is School of Rock, which is such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Love that movie. Oh yeah. I knew we'd find something Chloe understood.
Got you.
He also gained awards recognition for his Before trilogy, Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, and Before something else.
Sunset? Sunrise?
I said that one, I think. Sunrise. Yeah. There's a third one. I always forget one. And it's always a different one.
Oh, it's after. That's the difference. It's the Before series, but it's after. One of them is after Sunrise or after Sunset.
Is it?
I think that's what it is.
Fascinating.
I think it's like before something, and then after something.
That kind of makes sense. Interesting.
Too bad we don't have like connected tubes of information, spanning across the globe.
Look, if I start typing to try and find the answer, that's going to be on my audio. I have to deal with that. It's fine.
It's fine. We'll leave it to you to look it up, listeners.
Yeah. He also gained award recognition for Boyhood, which is the movie that I think made me aware of who he was. Because I'd seen movies he'd done, but I didn't know his name.
Yeah.
But Boyhood, was a very big deal. Because everyone's like, he shot it over 12 years.
Yeah.
People lost their shit.
Here's my fun story for Boyhood is that that showed at South by, and I got to go to the premiere because I had a film badge. And you ever just look at someone and you're like, man, something about you looks like you look famous, but I don't know if you are. Like, I wouldn't recognize you from anything, but you have that presence. You have screen presence. You have that shine, that pizzazz. I'm ranting.
Mm-hmm.
But I
live in Los
premiere,
Angeles, so yes.
And I hadn't seen the movie yet. And the main actor is like a no name. Like, that was the whole point. It's like, yeah, we got this no name. And yeah, like the main actor was wandering the halls. And I looked at him like, something about that guy. He's got something. And then I watched the movie and that was him. He grew, it was the main character. So I'm running around and he hasn't done much since, but you know what? If he ever walks by someone, I'm sure they're looking and be like, hey, you know what? Something about that guy.
You have those vibes.
Yeah. He had the vibes. Yeah.
He has the vibes.
Richard Linklater has pretty specific directorial styles too. Like, it varies a little bit, especially with his more mainstream stuff, but he really likes to experiment, which you can probably tell from Boyhood being shot over 12 years. He also did movies called Waking Life and a movie called A Scanner Darkly, none of which I have seen, but they're rotoscoped, I believe.
Yeah.
Which for Chloe, that means that he shot the movies and then he had animators come in and draw animation directly over the film. So it looks animated, but it's all 1-to-1 proportions because it's basically just animation traced over actual footage.
Interesting.
It's like a really bad Snapchat filter. Just over a whole movie. Yeah. That's basically it. But I hear good things.
Have you guys?
I hear good things. Never seen it, but I heard good things.
Have you guys seen Loving Vincent or heard of Loving Vincent?
No.
Loving Vincent is, I think, the first time I ever heard of rotoscoping as not just a small thing done or a way to because sometimes people rotoscope where they're trying to get movement down, so they just kind of draw exaggerated animation over a physical body or something like that. But Loving Vincent was the first one I heard of where it was full 1-to-1 drawn over animation, but it's not drawn over, it's painted over because it's a movie about Vincent van Gogh and it's rotoscoped, so it's footage rotoscoped to look like Vincent van Gogh art but moving, and it's so cool.
That sounds awesome.
He also did Slacker, which is also experimental because it's very like vignette-y.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to do a lot of stories that are based in like one day. Dazed and Confused is an example of that. Boyhood is the antithesis of that. And he is very people driven, and his movies are often about outcasts. Dazed and Confused, I would argue, fits that mold, even though it's like that one of the main characters is very popular and he's the football player and everything. I think it's like, it's kind of about teenagers feeling like outcasts from society. And that's just, his movies are often about people or groups of people who feel like excluded. And that's a big theme he deals with. School of Rock even has that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's going on in your head, Richard? Hey, you okay? You doing okay?
He's vibing. It's fine.
The cast includes a lot of big names who were not big names when this movie was made. We obviously have this movie's breakout star, Matthew McConaughey, who, fun fact, he went to UT Austin to study film. He wanted to be a director, and he got the job because he got drunk at a bar with the casting director for this movie, and they got kicked out of the bar, and he convinced him, or the casting director was just like, I like this guy, I want to bring him in for an audition. It might have been that too, yeah. But he brought him in for an audition, and he auditioned for the role, and he got the role. And this made Matthew McConaughey.
Nice.
Yeah, you just had to play himself.
We also have, yeah. maybe less, hopefully less creepy in real life.
Yeah.
But he's definitely got some of that like that swagger going for him, just with a nice little dusting of like unsettling. We also have Wiley Wiggins as Mitch Kramer, another Austin native who Richard Linklater considered like the special find of the movie because he was just a kid living in Austin, and he was like smoking cigarettes and doing all this shit at 14. And Richard Linklater was like, that kid's cool. Cast him. We have Mila Jovovich as Michelle Burrows, who is like one of the girlfriends. You don't really see her that much for reasons because fun fact, the character, so like her character is the girlfriend of the kid who's trying to have the party, and then it gets canceled. And that kid's role was originally supposed to be bigger, and Matthew McConaughey's role was supposed to be smaller because that kid was gonna be a lot of that, like that friend that hung out with them and stuff. Yeah. But the actor for him wasn't well liked on set, so Linklater was like, no, and he replaced parts that were supposed to be for him and for his girlfriend with Matthew McConaughey's character. Wow. Yeah. The things you learn with Google. Yeah. We also have Rory Cochrane as Ron Slater, the stoner, Parker Posey as Darla Marks, the mean senior, Ben Affleck as Fred O'Banion, the bully, Adam Goldberg as Mike Newhouse, the guy who gets into a fight, and Anthony Rapp as Tony Olson. Anthony Rapp, notably, is he originated the starring role of Rent on Broadway and then went on to star in it in the movie adaptation. And now he's on Star Trek Discovery, I believe. He also was the first person to come out against Kevin Spacey. Yeah.
Okay.
He brought that whole thing down on him.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Good for you, Anthony Rapp. I think he also knows Greg Miller. I think he's been on We Have Cool Friends.
That's weird.
I'm pretty sure he has been.
Wait. Now the name Rapp sounds really familiar. Who am I thinking of? Something Rapp.
Maybe this man.
But I mean, I feel like maybe they know him through like a wife. Like I feel like there was...
It's possible.
Something Rapp. Never mind. I'm getting off tangent.
He might be gay.
Okay, so then husband, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. I can't confirm that. But I feel like I remember hearing that he is. But yeah, that's all of them. Obviously, some of these people have gone on to do major things. Parker Posey's had a significant career. Mila Jovovich has had a lot of, like, I think Resident Evil movies. And Resident Evil movies. And Ben Affleck, obviously, is Ben Affleck. Another connection for us. Adam Goldberg has had small roles in a lot of things. He's in Zodiac for a hot second. I just watched that with Chloe when we were in San Francisco.
Shout out.
Yep. And that's the crew. This brings us to the important bit, the story. Chloe, what happens in this
Yes.
movie?
Where'd my notes have go? Hold on. Sorry, I was looking up. You're right. Anthony Rapp was on We Have Cool Friends pretty recently.
Also,
knew it.
he was. It wasn't like it was just straight up him.
That was just.
I mean, it might be that they
weird.
know him through someone, but like he was the one they brought on for sure.
Oh, okay.
Whack.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's 1976. We're at high school, and everyone's smoking it up, man. It's a good time. Vibes are flowing. It's a good time. Senior football players are asked to sign a pledge that they will not be smoking it up this summer to not jeopardize their championship season. They all laugh at that, and Randy Pink Floyd doesn't want to sign it. And it's time to get ready for the hazing of the incoming freshmen.
A lot of things happening immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Adults being authoritative, high schoolers tormenting middle schoolers. So much stuff.
Yeah.
So much is happening. Classes end, and then it's time for the hazing. Oh, my God. The boys get hunted down and paddled while the girls are rounded up by the other senior girls. They have to wear pacifiers they're covered in, ketchup, mustard, flour, eggs, and then they have to get on their knees and propose to the senior guys. Oh my God, this aged very well. Oh man.
I never saw this
And all
level
the
of hazing back in high school, by the way. And it was never that bad.
No.
Never like this.
It was never like this. Like, I don't think anything that happened in high school, for me at least, or that I was aware of, is something I would qualify as like hazing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just like people being shitty, but not like a uniform planned action to humiliate people as an initiation ritual.
No, it's so bizarre.
To be fair, I also didn't grow up in Texas in the 70s, so
yeah, different
also
time.
True.
Richard Linklater
Very
did. He
different
was
time.
16 at the point in time that this movie was set, so maybe this was his life, man. I have concerns
so
about his.
sorry.
I
high
totally
school
believe
upbringing.
everything. I totally, so much of this stuff is so specific. I'm like, no, either him or the writers or people he knew definitely had stories to
believe
share. Yeah, these.
Something
Yeah.
happened there, yeah.
Or at least there was like a story that went around like his area of like, oh, in this school they do this. And in the back of his head, he was like, I remember that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, hazing ends-ish. Everyone goes home, gets ready for the big party tonight at Kevin's house.
Hey.
Unfortunately for literally everybody, the guy delivering the beer kegs shows up way too early. Kevin's parents find out about the party, cancel their plans to leave, ruining the party plans. God damn it.
You hate to see it happen.
You hate to see it.
I love the scene though, right before when the parents need to come in and they're just trying everything they do to try to cover up the smoke smell, and like they're like throwing incense around and they got a spray and I forget the stoner's name, but he literally just puts his stash under his shirt. Like they're just
Puts it up his shirt. Yeah.
and it takes them so long. It is ridiculously long. Like there's no way the parents are just like,
Yeah.
It's like they know,
Yeah.
but
They have to know.
it's still
I
really
like-
funny.
I like the scene right before that when the parents are leaving or like packing up the car and the kids get there and they're like, "Oh, you're going on a trip? Is Kevin coming with you?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Ah, no, he's not." And I'm like, "That's smart."
Mhm.
Like
That's true.
that was a moment where I was like, "Oh man, like you guys are playing this well. You're gonna get away
Yeah,
with it. You're gonna have a
yeah.
party. Like this movie is a build up to the party, right?" And then everything went
Yep.
to shit so fast.
Delivery guys ruining everything all the time. Terrible.
Adults.
Adults. To be fair, the delivery guy was cool. He was like, "Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
this
he
is
tried,
the
he
wrong
tried.
house." So close. But anyways,
It's so weird seeing teenagers buying alcohol.
Mm.
I know, right?
I still
Yeah.
feel weird buying alcohol. Like I'm
Really?
over the hump. Like I'm not, but it's still like I still
I don't feel weird, but I always feel like I'm gonna get looked at weird. You know,
Mhm, mhm.
I'm like, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of buying alcohol, but there's always this part of me in the back of my head that's like, what if they don't believe my ID? Like, what if they look at my ID and they're like, this is fake, and I'm just like, but it isn't.
Okay, here's
I mean, that like almost kind of happened when I was in San Francisco with you guys, and I have an Illinois ID. And
It
they're
did,
like,
yeah.
"Hey, where are you from? Like, you
Yeah.
visiting?" I'm like, "I sure am. This is a real ID. I promise you."
And I'm just sitting there like, you guys have a lot of colleges here. People come from other places and stay
Yeah.
here for a while.
Bizarre. It's fine. We got our wine or whatever.
That's
It's
true,
all
we did.
good. Anyways, everyone goes off to do their own thing, whether it's cruising, stopping at the drive-in hamburger place, hanging out at the Emporium, which is like the pool place. We meet Wooderson, dude in his 20s, who still likes hanging out with high schoolers. Sure,
Oof.
man. Sure.
It's so accurate because I definitely know guys who were like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
One of my best friends in high school was dating a guy in college, and I was like, this is weird. But it's so strange to see.
Yeah. I'll say this. When I first watched it when I was much younger, I did not realize, I thought maybe he had been like a year ahead of them. I didn't realize just like how exaggerated I didn't realize how much of a difference it was until I'm older and on rewatches you hear more of the throwaway lines about like I think what's the dude that got in a fight? Is it Mike or Nick or
Mike is in the fight? Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, man, like he graduated when we were in third grade. Like little lines like that are like really pushed. Like it's not like he just grew when I was younger, I just didn't realize like just how much older he was until later.
Yeah.
I'm still also trying to piece together how much older he was because I can't tell if that was like exaggeration to say third grade, because like McConaughey was probably 23, 25 when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess, like in my head, I was like, okay, so he probably is like 23, 24 in this, which is still very weird.
But he keeps saying lines like, oh, the coach said that line. Like he said the same thing back when I was, whatever.
I don't know. Wikipedia says early 20s, so like maybe 23.
I feel like if you're 23, you're far enough removed from high school that you're like, back in my day.
Mm-hmm.
Because I definitely reference high school in those terms now.
Back in my 7 years ago.
Yeah. And also,
You're
like, so much changes. I mean, maybe not for him because he kept going back to the same old place and hanging out with the same old people.
True.
Yeah.
But
you know this is a semi-tangent, but you know what's equally alarming and yet not often talked about in the modern era of film? So I was reading the script for Parasite right before we got on this. And I'm not like,
nice.
I'm not that far into it. I've only read like the first 10 or 20 pages. But there's the scene when you meet Min, the tutor friend who gives the job to the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's the girl he's into and she's like in high school. And I always thought that was kind of weird, but I was like, okay, like,
yes, that was
she's
weird.
I was like, she's like 16. I don't know how old he is, but like, maybe he's not that old. The script defines gym and the main character as 24-year-old men.
No, yeah.
They're 8 years older than she is.
Not great, especially she's still in high school.
Like
That's
that.
really not great. She's underage, homie. No.
Yep.
Yikes. Okay.
Yep. Anyways,
back
to 1990s problematic men.
You're right. So everybody's just vibing, unless you're a grade A asshole like O'Banion, who just has a little too much fun hunting down these freshmen and beating their asses.
He failed school one year to do it again.
Yikes, dude. Find a better hobby.
Yeah.
Karma comes back around from it later.
And
when
it's so obvious. Like, none of the other seniors or anyone like him either. Like, nobody likes him. If he has friends, it's in his head. Like,
yeah.
Exactly. Because, like,
it also seems like he's kind of just like jumping from group to group when they're like hunting down kids. So it almost seems like, yeah, he's around, guys. Like,
yeah.
I think Randy just says like, yeah, he's a jerk. Like the only reason, like, but he plays good football though, so like they still keep him around, kind of thing.
It's fair.
Yeah. Appease them. Appease the player.
Yeah.
Get the championship. Tell him to fuck off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Down the line. Yeah.
Listen, but like once he gets the paint dumped on him and he storms off, we don't see him ever again. Yeah. So that's all good. So Mitch Kramer's one of those freshman boys, and he, after getting his ass beat, he gets to hang out with all the cool guys.
Yeah.
He gets to drink and smoke. He meets a cute girl. He goes cruising with the boys to play mailbox baseball.
He gets some confidence.
He
goes bowling.
It's good time. Got in the mailbox baseball, was just driving by and picking up garbage cans to launch at mailboxes. That sounds fun and totally until, one of the residents comes up and threatens him with a gun.
Yeah.
So Texas. It got so Texas so fast.
I forgot this took place in Texas until then. I'm like, oh yes.
When they zoom off and he does like a couple of like rolls on the ground,
shots.
That's when I realized like, oh wow, yeah, this has like some secret budget. Like it does, like the production design of everything does such a good job of just looking so natural that you forget like, oh wait, you got to really push dollars to do these kinds of things. Like yeah, like trashing up neighborhoods and that was the only moment in the movie where I had like where I couldn't help but like zoom out, kind of being like, oh, look at the production thing of it, you know. But yeah, that was a wild scene. Yeah, when they get the guns pointed right at them.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
And then he fires at them.
Yeah,
he does.
Like when he's threatening with the gun, I'm like, okay, this is like intense, but like I don't know if the gun's loaded, you know.
Yeah,
he's just mad at these kids, you know.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, I'm gonna kill some kids.
Yeah, like, oh my god, dude, what if you did actually shoot one of them? What then?
Another theme across this movie in Armageddon. Unnecessary gun violence.
Right. You're right. Except this time it wasn't against Ben Affleck specifically, although it almost was. So.
It almost was.
Almost
If it was, that would have been perfect.
It would have been.
We would have had the Triforce of references.
You know, maybe it was so when Ben Affleck zooms off, he actually starts his new life on an oil rig. And
that's his new life. Like,
it makes sense. You know, Richard Linklater is pulling from his experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
He was always bad at like school and stuff, right? It's because he failed his senior year and he never went back.
Yeah, he never went back.
Guys, this is the Armageddon cinematic universe.
Exactly.
We've put it all together.
And Ben Affleck is the connecting link, connective tissue.
Wow.
Crazy.
Who would have thought Ben Affleck in this day and age?
Wild. Anyways, while the Emporium closes, everyone kind of throws together an impromptu party in a field under a moonlit tower.
Yeah.
And then we continue to follow all the different cliques. Like, Tony, the senior, runs into Sabrina, the freshman from earlier. He met at the hazing earlier. They hang out, and he drops her off later, and they kiss goodnight. That's kind of cute.
It is weird, the age difference, though.
Age difference is a little weird, but, like...
This movie keeps having that, where it's, like, the seniors lusting after the freshmen, and I'm, like, uncomfortable.
They're 14. They're not even freshmen yet. Like, they're incoming freshmen.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, these are 14-year-olds, and you are 17, probably?
17, 18?
Yeah. Like, these are children. And I get that when you're in high school, you don't view 14-year-olds as young as like I view 14-year-olds now. I get that there's definitely like a different mindset there, but still, these are children. You're offering children alcohol.
Yeah, like Mitch goes and buys at some point. And the dude's like, "You're 18, right?" I'm like, "Really?"
All he does
that
is
man
borrow.
is not.
I love that he just borrows all of McConaughey's lines. Like, yeah, I'm working for the city.
Yeah.
Think I might go to school afterwards. Like, pocketing my money.
Yeah. It's great. Oh my god. What else happens? Mike starts a fight with Clint after he humiliated him earlier for calling out the weed smell. That fight's broken up by Pink and Wooderson. That's great. Mitch, again, he makes out with that cute sophomore girl till sunrise, goes home and find out his mom waited up for him this whole time. She gives him this one pass because she's like, you're cool. Yeah. As the party winds down, everybody makes plans to get breakfast in the morning. A group consisting of Floyd and Wooderson and all their friends go to the school football field to smoke. That's cut short when the police arrive. They recognize Pink and they call the football coach. So yikes. Yeah. Coach shows up, lectures him about hanging out with those losers, asks him to sign the no drugs pledge again. Pink, like, sick of being asked about it all day and all night. He's like, no, crumples it up, throws it back at Coach. He's like, I might still play football, but I'm not signing this. So he leaves with his friends to go to an Aerosmith concert. The movie ends as they ride on the highway into the sunrise.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's Dazed and Confused.
It is. Yeah. It is Dazed and Confused. Guys, we'll start with Chloe because she has not seen it before. Chloe, what were your initial impressions coming out of the movie? What'd you think of it? How'd you feel?
The vibes are immaculate.
The vibes are immaculate.
It just makes me want to go drive around. You can't do that now, but
No.
like on a summer night with the windows rolled down, music
Yeah.
blaring, it's like, oh, it hits that nostalgia just right.
Mhm.
You can do it if you exclusively take your siblings.
Yeah, but that's like not as fun.
I'm aware of that.
You know, it's also
We're
like
making do with what we have.
I know it's also kind of still winter here. It's just snowing 2 days
Oh
ago.
yeah,
Wow.
it
So
is. I saw that. Yeah.
it's not very summery over here.
Yeah.
It's not great. But
Christian, what about you? What were your? How do you feel about this movie overall? Did you feel anything new watching it this time?
Every time I watch it, I get to like appreciate new lines that I'm like listening out for, for example, in the like leading up to the fight, when they're having like, hey, what do you mean? Like what? Like I'm noticing just how much he's really trying to empathize with the other character, like the greaser character. Like no, like I'm cool. Like I don't care that you smoke. Like little lines that he said here and there, and just in general, just listening to the dialogue a bit more. Like I guess that's where I was going with that. It's just. Yeah, it still hits really good and still gives me all the nostalgia feels like you were mentioning. But yeah, like I totally had my group of like I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but like I definitely had like relatives and cousins who were my seniors, I guess, and would try to, and watching this reminds me a lot of those relationships. And yeah, the shenanigans and stuff that, you know, you get into when you're in your youth, you know, I know we all have fun as best we can these days, but there's something different about, you know, back then when you felt like you were invincible and stuff like that. And it's fun to look back on that, but also to laugh at like the things you were scared at too. Things like, how do you talk to a girl? How do you stand up to a bully? What do you do when, you know, how when you're trying to look like an adult, you know? So it's always good to revisit this movie.
Yeah. I liked it a lot too. First of all, the music in this movie slaps.
so good.
Yeah.
It's
So good.
good. Just from that opening song, like when the movie starts,
Sweet Emotion.
it comes in on yes.
Or I don't know if
Yes?
it's called Emotion, but the one that goes Sweet Emotion, the one that,
Yeah, the opening song, whichever one it was, it hit, and immediately I was just like, oh, I'm in.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, like there are some movies where I'm like, oh yeah, like 10 minutes you watch it, you get but just this movie so perfectly captures the tone that it's going for, and just that kind of like high school, like it doesn't necessarily feel like my high school experience, but it definitely captures the like feeling you have in high school.
It's very
I think.
authentic to that feeling.
Yeah.
Even if like the setting is different, the fashion, the music is all different, like it still is very authentic to that, to the personality is like of what it is.
Yeah.
When you're either moving from junior high to high school or when you're moving from high school to adulthood.
Yeah. It's really smart too that they did that. Well, they had those different, like, not just different perspectives within high school, but different ages where it's like the person going into their last year, the person going into their first year, the person who's been out of college and should have, or been out of high school and should have moved on by now, but hasn't. Or like the person who's kind of like been keeping themselves in high school with Ben Affleck's character. And it's really cool to see all those different perspectives. And again, just the music is so fucking good.
And something about
So
it being
good.
like the first day of summer, you have all these different people from different, like you said, different generations, age groups, cliques, social circles, everything. And I guess there's something about it being the first day of summer where they all are most likely to meet up, you know, and find there's each other at the same party and stuff. And so you get all these moments where they're comparing and contrasting different stories. Like, oh yeah, they got me bad when I was a senior. And like, even that, like the initiation, the girlfriend, one of the guys is like, hey, like, I know, I get it. I was like this when I was a senior and y'all gonna be like this when y'all are seniors too. And then she just like, goes into like, nah, fuck y'all. Like,
Yeah. There's Parker Posey's character is like kind of insane with the whole thing. But there is this kind of like with Mitch too, where they're like, oh yeah, like we're gonna like beat you up and like give you shit. But hey, now come on, let's get a beer. Like no one's gonna bother you anymore. Like they know you've been got. It's cool. I enjoy it. So guys, this brings us to our first like focus question. What are your 3 favorite scenes? Christian, I know I hadn't asked you that question until very close to recording, so I don't know if you have any. It's fine if you don't. But at the very least, Chloe, what is one of your favorite scenes?
when everybody is getting high at the party and they're talking about aliens and how George Washington was in a cult.
And I love it. I even wrote that in my notes that like the last line, his final thing, like he's going off about like money and everything. And yeah, she had a bowl for him. And his final thing, like when he's like, okay, I've lost them. They're all ready to wrap this up. He goes, and money is green too. You know? Yeah, just like we.
Yeah.
Like what else? That was his punctuation. It's green too.
It's green too.
Yeah.
It's also such a stoner conversation where like some things he's just pulling out of his ass. Some things like are kind of logical connections, but like stretches where it's like, you're right. Money is green and weed is green. Is that causation?
Yeah.
I don't think so, man.
Listen.
But yeah, that's a good scene.
It's really good. It's really, and cutting between like that and the dude like Pink making out with the girl. It's like good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, are we like each of us doing 3 or like is it round?
Yeah.
table?
1 1 1 2 2 2 3 3 3.
Okay. I guess
making our way around.
I'll kind of go backwards. Like that last shot at the football field. I really like that. Like it's really them. They've had the full night. I really enjoy that. Like he's still like, even though he's having all this fun with his friends and stuff, he still has this thing in the back of his head. And I like that the movie decided like, hey, even though we're having all this fun, we're getting high, we're getting drunk, we're having fights. Let's not forget that these kids are also 3-dimensional and have still stuff that's on their mind. And so they're talking about like, you know, the one friend gets very deep all of a sudden. He's like, I'm going to look back and ask myself, you know, did I live the way I wanted to live? Do the things I wanted to do? And he goes on and jokes about it a bit later too. But I really like that scene. Not only because it's very kind of like, it's almost all the most wild characters and they're having one of the most quietest moments in the movie. But also like, I was going to say like how I relate to that location too, but I think we have a whole like section later where we're talking about like stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see, because some movies are very much about like coming of age movies are very much about like the kids learning things. And this movie hides it, I think, a lot more, but it's still there. And it's a bit more subtle where it's like, it's not necessarily them learning like how to live, but it's them kind of facing the reality of like, I don't know what the future holds. And especially because of the way Richard Linklater does it, it's like, we only know these kids for a day. We don't know what their life was before this day. We don't know who they're going to be. We don't know if they'll have the future that they want or talk about or dream of. We only know them in this day. And that's really cool. Yeah. My first favorite scene is the scene when they first go into the Emporium. Is that what it's called?
Emporium, yeah.
And it's playing Bob Dylan. And the song started to play and I went, holy shit, they got a Bob Dylan song. And they walk in and like everyone's hanging out and vibing. And it's like this classic high school
It's
feel.
one of the few moments where like it goes stylized because it's a slow motion shot. Like, like it really takes its time to be like, hey, like this is a different world from like once you've crossed those doors, this is a little something different.
It's very cool. And I really enjoy that. And I also really appreciate your wise cinematography knowledge, Christian.
Sorry, I just keep throwing stuff out there. Sorry.
No, please do. Please do.
Yeah,
I love that because like I try and like layer in like cinematography and directing and stuff like that. But the reality is the thing I'm most educated in is screenwriting. So once it's outside the purview of storytelling, I'm not as much of an expert. So having your expertise is great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chloe, what is your second choice?
I can't remember what part, but they were talking about making breakfast plans, and I'm like, I've had this exact conversation
that's at the end.
Before.
Like I think the party's wrapping
towards
up.
the end. I'm like, this is like exactly like you going out like RTX or something. We're like, hey, we're gonna get breakfast brunch tomorrow. I'll see you guys then. You know, I don't know. It's a good feeling. I like that. It's like I'm gonna see you again. Vibes are still going.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot too of like I've definitely never partied until daybreak, but I've definitely done things where it's like, oh, we're out partying and drinking until like 1 or 2 a.m. And then instead of going home, we're like, hey, this diner's 24 hours. You want to go get food right now? And then we're sitting in a diner at 3:30 a.m.
Like I ran into y'all at Denny's like during RTX or something.
Yeah.
Good shit. I love that. Love that feeling.
Christian, what's your second choice?
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but we can recap it a bit. I love when he has to go, like when Mitch has to go buy beer for the first time. Like, and he leading up, like I made notes that like he has these small baby steps and he's always pushing himself a little bit more. At first, he was the lookout, like, hey, I'm gonna go, and it's not even like they robbed the place. They like he paid for it, but he joked and said they were gonna rob the beer, and like, yeah, be our lookout, and then it moves up from that. It's like, hey, go buy me the beer, and so like I really like that everything since getting paddled, like everything he's been picking up from, you know, his new senior friends and stuff, like all came down to this. Can you pull it off? Like that is like all of us are like, well, I graduated or after college or after high school. All of us are adults, and we just finished talking earlier about how we still get nervous going to buy beer. So like to see, like it was just cool. I was proud of my little boy. He's there. He's lying to the old folks and giving lies and stuff and buying beer. And I just like
and pulling it off brilliantly.
It was really good seeing him, like, and he's so pleased with him afterwards. He's like, you know, when he walks out and he runs into his friends, like, you know, it's just so cool. He gets a win, and that's nice to see, because he spent so much of the first half of the movie being so afraid.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In fact, my second choice is also that scene.
Hey,
nice.
You've said a lot of what I wanted to say, but like, it is so cool to see Mitch grow. And even though it's like, it is kind of weird seeing like 14-year-olds doing these things, I think it's also like, again, it's fair, because when you're in high school, you view high schoolers kind of similarly. Like I remember in high school, I was never weirded out about my friend's little sister who was like a freshman going to parties with her. So, you know, I have to like put myself back in that high school mindset and be like, yeah, this kid is like a kid to me, but he is going to high school. He's entering this world. He's learning, he's growing, he's like finding his footing, and he's doing it very well. And it's just it's cool to see him vibe and get along with all these people. And just him reusing the line is so good.
It's really good.
It's such good screenwriting, and it's just such good character development. I love it. I love it a lot.
Absolutely.
And like kind of so it took him the whole night to really learn how to be like the adult, and you get your first glimpse of that, like his first attempt when they first pick him up. And what's his name, Woodsman or Woodsrow or what? Watterson.
Oh.
He asked him. He asked him, you know, do you get high? Do you have a joint? And he doesn't say no, I don't smoke. He says, not on me. Like he's trying from the get go to sound. He's like, oh, not on me. Like as if like, oh, I just smoked my last one. Sorry, dude. Or like, oh, I'm all out. Like he's trying to pass off being an adult, and like and they just kind of laugh at him like, all right, like as if you smoked at all. And like it's just comparing the two instances of him first trying to show off to the friends, and then now like using everything he's learned from them. Like I don't know, it's cool. I like it.
And I think seeing him learn, because even beyond like him trying to seem cool, it's also just like, you know, there are things he doesn't know. There are things he's oblivious to, and we all have things we're oblivious to, especially when we're that young. So like, there's that moment when they're like, oh, are you cool? And he's like, yes, I think so. And the guy walks away, and Pink is like, he was asking if you smoke. Like he's asking if you get high, and he's like, oh. And I remember when I was in middle school, and I was in middle school, and I put something up on Craigslist to sell, and it was like an Xbox, I think, an old Xbox. And someone messaged me back, and they're like, will you take 420 for it? And I'd never heard 420 as a name for weed. So I was like, I mean, I'm listing it for less money, so I don't know why you'd give me $420.
Oh, man.
Yeah, proud moment for me. But it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, we all have like areas we're ignorant and areas we don't really understand. And it's cool to see this kid like growing and learning and facing the lessons and uncertainties and like difficulties that you have to go through in high school, or you hope you go through in high school. At least some of us didn't. Some of us took longer to get to certain places. I am one of them.
Mine was a mix.
But you dream.
That's for another episode.
Yeah. Chloe, what is your third favorite scene?
God, literally every time Matthew McConaughey said all right.
All right.
It's so good. Every time he said it, I was like, he said the thing. He
Do
made
you
me
know
very
that
happy.
phrase at least?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I got so excited every time he said it.
Gotcha. You're like, oh,
It's so
this
good.
is the movie.
Yeah. I had no idea, but now I know.
Now you know. That's what we're here for.
Brainless. Exactly.
Keep people educated.
Yeah, absolutely. Good shit, man. Oh my god, he's great.
Christian, wrap it up with yours. What is your third? I don't know why I said wrap it up. I still need to do my third too, but you know what I mean.
No, like I kind of feel bad because I'll say a little bit more jumping off of that because that was also not. So she said every time he says all right. So mine was similar. Mine is when you first meet him. Like, do I agree that he's a scummy character and horrible and no one should ever look up to him? Oh yeah,
he's great though.
In any way, exactly. But what I will say is that you cannot deny that charisma and confidence, like that, like dude, he's just you just keep wanting to hear what he says next, you know?
Yeah.
And on top of that, even though he's around, like sometimes he's around some of the douchier characters too, like he, despite his bad choices, is overall still overall a nice guy. Like he tries to break up the fight and he like talks to the freshman and he doesn't give up shit. Yeah.
If he was just a senior in high school like the rest of them, you'd be like, this is the coolest character.
Yeah.
He's like chill with everyone. He's nice. He stops fights. He creates parties. He's the guy.
Overall, pretty positive. At the end, when he's still at the end talking about like, I don't know, they want me to sign this thing. And he's like, man, he's the whole like, man, life's just about living. It's like fucking shit. Like, dude, yeah. Like, I don't know. I still fucks with it. So his main introduction, because it's just a fun introduction to the character.
My third scene is definitely something that is now escaping me, even though I know I had it when we started recording this podcast. Give me a moment to think.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
The fuck is it?
Just
Vamp, continue, please.
Mention that Emporium is a location I get to drive by sometimes when I'm up north, and that I like. This is the kind of movie that like my parents, when I was growing up, would always be like, hey, that's from the movie, this movie. And so the hamburger joint, the drive-in, it's still around. And I think it's even still in operation, but it's not like we don't look at it as very popular. Like, it's not like there's a line out the door, like, hey, this is the Dazed and Confused joint or anything like that. But like a fun thing about that spot is like, like, hey, I see that. And
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Ben, did you think of?
You got it?
I definitely don't. But actually, no. I forgot what it was. I should have written it down. That was my mistake. But I'm going to name just like something else off the top of my head that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I really like the scene in the classroom with the teacher.
You did say it.
Because she's so great. And she's just like, remember, while you're celebrating your centennial, this is what the country was built on. Yeah. White men with slaves not wanting to pay their taxes. And I was like, I love you.
I was like, you could clip that out.
And she just had the scene.
And it's still like, yeah.
And she just had the scene with the character where he's like trying to hit on her. And she just like pats him on the head like a child. And I'm like, you are the best person in this movie.
She's great.
She's fantastic.
I don't know if y'all ever had like students like that, like when y'all were in high school, but like I had so many, friends of friends or whatever that like were always thinking like, oh, Mrs. So-and-so wants me. And it's like, why are you even talking like this? Like, what is wrong with you? And
I don't have any memory specifically of like people being like, oh, this teacher, they want me. But I definitely remember like teenagers being in love with their teachers, where they're like, oh, this like Miss so-and-so, so fine. Or like Mr. Nguyen, he can like, I want him to love me.
Yeah. I knew plenty of people like that. Always in love with the history teachers. Yep.
It was always, we had, I think our science teacher, one of our counselors and one of our English teachers were like the three that got it the most. I
just specifically remember my 7th grade social studies teacher. Everybody loved him. It's like, all right.
That must be so weird for teachers.
Right? These are children.
Because I also remember, because we're talking about this a lot in this movie, where it's like, it's weird to see how teenagers perceive themselves. Because a 14-year-old to a 17-year-old doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But a 14-year-old to us seems like such a big deal compared to a 17-year-old. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's So it's weird because I remember being in like middle school and you're like, maybe, or like even high school, you're like, oh, like this person that I go to school with is attractive. Like, why wouldn't the teacher like be interested, right?
Mhm.
And then you grow up and you're like, because that'd be so creepy.
Yeah.
Not even because they're sitting there thinking like, I wish I could, but it's creepy. It's just like, no, this is a child.
Right. Yeah.
Unlike-
Exactly.
So like on a different but similar note, like just in general. So like I mentioned, I'm subbing. I was subbing for a little bit, and I've been like a sub teacher for like last 2 or 3 years, like on and off. And yeah, like it's funny watching this film, being like, oh, like these kids think they're so adult, and then when I look at the kids these days, like it hasn't changed. Like I had like most recently I had like some 5th and 4th graders, and they all think that they're college kids. Basically, the things that they say, the way that they act, it is nuts. And yeah. And it's kind of scary.
Even college kids think they're adults, and then it's like, you're not, man. Maybe some of you, but most of you are like, you're children. You're older children, but you're children.
Which is an overall like kind of goes back to like why this, like part of why this movie is fun is because it is kind of fun to look back and be like, that's funny how it's funny what they think, and it's also funny to think about what I thought back then too.
Yeah, exactly. Because like we've all been there. We've all been those high schoolers. We've all been college kids that are like immature and need to grow up. And like even now, we all have growing we'll need to do. There's definitely people in their like 40s looking back on us being like, those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I saw something a couple days ago. I forget from where, but it was someone being like, oh yeah, everyone in their 20s is an asshole. And I'm like, well,
what I was going to say is just like, I think like why it's so universal is because like the story doesn't like center around like one major thing. Like the party is always in the background, and there's some storylines that are in the background, but it's not like, hey, this is a movie about the guy trying to get the girl. It's not a movie about prom or getting like Revenge of the Nerds or something like that. It's not super specific. It's very vague. Like you have several heroes.
It's very meandering.
And like I think that's part of like what makes it like something pretty much anyone can watch. It's not like, oh, you had to be this guy or this girl or this whatever in high school to relate to it. Like, no, it's like you get to see everybody. Like,
yeah. And that it does seem to be something that Richard Linklater is very good at, because so many of his movies are meandering. Like Boyhood doesn't really have an overarching story aside from just like watch this kid grow up.
Yeah.
And
Everybody Wants Some, which is the spiritual sequel to this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like the college version of this, right?
Yeah. I think it's like the last week before like the first day of class or something like that.
Yeah. It's definitely like the lead up to school starting kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you think of a third scene, or you get to move on?
I'm going with the scene. I already forgot. I'm going with the scene with the teacher. I like her. Okay. That's it. That's fine. Yeah. Guys, who is your favorite character in this movie? Christian, as the one bringing the movie, you can kick it off.
I think I don't want to say my favorite, but I think Mitch, it's hard not to relate to Mitch. Like, yeah, like I definitely had like, I didn't have high school bullies, but I could definitely relate with the nervousness of like, everyone's expecting me to be an adult right away. Or at least, actually, it's not even that. It's like everyone around me in my age group is trying to push to be an adult. And I definitely feel like I want to take my time, but at the same time, there's the pressure of, wanting to show off to you. And so just like, he was one of the more relatable characters, I think. So that's why I really like him. Plus, he's just, I don't know, he's a funny kid. He's a funny kid.
Yeah. Claire, how about you?
Matthew McConaughey playing himself. Creep. Listen, I know he's creepy, but overall, he's a really cool guy.
He is a really cool guy. I'm uncomfortable, but also I really want a beer with you.
Yeah.
But like, you seem like I want to hang out with you. Like, stop going after freshman girls when you're in your 20s, but like, you're cool. Besides that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, maybe date people your age. They exist and they're still attractive. If not more attractive, they're more attractive. They're adults.
More attractive. Exactly.
Am I giving him too much credit to say that at least the girl that he did invite to the Aerosmith, like she was a senior, right? She was going to go into her senior year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
is that giving him
I'm not going to give him credit for that because he still references freshmen. I guess you could argue that he's like not planning to make moves on them until they're seniors or something, which isn't really better.
It's not better. It's not better.
It's still like because he's still first of all, because he's still asking like, oh, like how's the new crop of girls, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's also like kind of grooming. I don't know if he actually talks to them, but it has the at least the foundations of grooming to it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But Chloe,
weird
totally
thing.
get why. I get
it too.
He's super charming, super cool.
Yes.
Every line he says is funny. And like we said earlier, overall, he seems like a well-meaning
You take out the creepiness,
person.
he's a fantastic character.
Yeah, at least for his
And
friends,
he's so
he
much
means
the
well.
breakout.
Yeah.
And he's so much the breakout of this movie that before seeing it, I assumed he was this main character.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, because all I knew about Dazed and Confused was like high school setting, 70s, Matthew McConaughey.
Well, I feel
All
like he
right.
has all like the lines. He has all like the
Yeah, he
meme
does.
lines, the quotes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I again have to agree with Christian on this one, which I guess isn't surprising since our mutual scene also features Mitch. I love Mitch's character.
Yeah.
I agree with Chloe too. Like those are probably like the two standout characters for me. But Mitch is super cool. I like seeing like the awkward kid grow into like the kind of confident, like capable. We all have that power fantasy of being like accepted by the older kids and like becoming cool. And then you meet you see your old friends who are kind of lame. And you're like, what's up? I just bought beer. And like he handles it well. He never feels like an asshole for the way he's going about things. Also, on the mention of his other friends, like I know I'm saying they don't seem cool, but one of those kids was making out with a girl at a junior high party.
Yeah. He was going at it.
He was, and then his friends pull him away.
Yeah.
And then give him shit for not being. And then he's like, I was going somewhere, and they're like, you can't get anywhere. And I'm like, he was making out with a girl. What were you doing?
He said her hand was her shirt. Like,
he said,
she's clearly getting somewhere.
He said,
and she clearly looked into it when he walked away. Like she was sad.
Oh, she looked sad when he left. But I watched the movie like a short today recently. So the line they say is like even if you had gotten there, you wouldn't even know what to do. Like it's
like no shit. You just graduated middle school.
Yeah.
Which of you does?
Which just reminds me of like how weird I thought that I was probably more like them. Like I would see everyone else around me in middle school all trying to do everything and me being like, why? What is going on? Like, why is everyone in such a rush to do stuff? And I was confused.
I mean, there's always the concept of like when you're in middle school, you're like, oh, everyone's dating, everyone's making out, everyone's doing this. Then you get to high school and you discover like, oh no, tons of people weren't. And then you're in high school and you're like, everyone's hooking up, everyone's going to parties, everyone's getting laid. And then you get to college and you're like, oh no, like tons of people weren't.
Yeah.
So just like a constant progression of being like, oh, maybe this isn't actually the norm. It's just some people do this and talk about it constantly.
Pretty much.
Yeah. This has been Calm the Fuck Down, Teenagers with Ben.
They're too horny, man.
They really are.
Yeah.
The things you see on TikTok, man.
Oh, I know.
The amount of just like teenagers being like, this is what I believe. And me being like, please stop.
You're a child.
Please stop.
Terrible.
So I have some questions for you about the movie. We've touched on part of this already, but like, does this movie remind you of your high school experience? Or like, how much does it remind you of your high school experience? Is it more like tonally, or like, are there things that you can look at and be like, oh yeah, I remember that kind of person or that kind of situation?
I didn't have so much this high school experience, and we don't usually even get to see much of it. It's the last day and everybody's skipping, and I was not really that kind of student back then. What this reminds me of more is everything between semesters. This reminded me of the summers, because a lot of time in the summers. So a lot of this was shot in Austin, which Austin's like a pretty big town now. It's actually much bigger now than it was back when this was shot. But I don't think they ever call it Austin. I think they try to imply like this is a small town in Texas. Like I don't think they try to embrace like, yeah, this is a city. Like they try to push like, no, this is a small town, this and that. And so in my summers, I would go and visit family and relatives down on the border in the border towns, which are hella small. And so when you're in a small town like that, yeah, all there is to do is just like cruise around and get late night food and like maybe there's a party, maybe you'll jump in for drinks and then leave. And like, yeah, like I never So I never had like exactly peer pressure to drink. Like I didn't start drinking until I was in college, but like the opportunity was always there. I was always surrounded by older people that were like, hey, like, you know, your folks aren't around. We're here at a party. Like, do you want anything? And like, if I said no, that they were totally cool with it. But like, what this reminds me more is like, yeah, like that, the vacation time that like, I keep accidentally getting too metaphorical, and I'm trying to push myself. I'm trying to hold myself back.
No,
Like,
fine.
I was like, okay, so like it's the different world. Like it's just a different world altogether. What I had here in coming to school in Austin and having these experiences in a border town, like where it is a bit more Wild West. Like the rules are a bit more gray there, and you can't have like I know that high schoolers these days have experiences similar to this, except just more contemporary. But I feel like it's all still kind of like a bit more hidden, or you're not as out in the open about it. But in this movie, I feel like it's a bit more like kind of everybody knows. Like they even make commentary like, I can't believe the parents know that like these initiations are going on and that things are happening like this. And that I didn't really see much until the summers, like when I would leave town and go into like, you know, my family's border town and stuff like that. So it reminded me more of that experience of being young and having people around you that wanted to like kind of show you the ropes and like make you feel like you're like part of the adult crew too. And so like that's part what I relate to more, not exactly like my high school experience, but my away from high school experience.
What about you, Chloe?
Yeah, no, because I was never cool in high school or anything. Parties were totally out of my radar or anything. But just being in a small town and all you can do is drive around and get food. That's it. Related to that real hard because that nothing to do. You can go to Walmart, walk around there, go to Steak and Shake because that's open pretty late.
If I can illustrate, if I can use this to illustrate, this town didn't even have a Walmart until recently. When the Walmart showed up in this town, everyone was like, holy shit, like we're about to get really lit. But before then, like when I was like Mitch's age, like, yeah, there was not a Walmart. You went to like their version of like a mall, which wasn't really much if we didn't even have Walmart. And yeah, you just did the best with what you had. Sorry, Chloe.
Yeah, no, it's fine. The closest Walmart's like 20 minutes away. So that's part of the thing is just driving in the middle of nowhere because that's all you can do is just sit in the car and talk about life. And that's it.
Yeah.
But
I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like, I wasn't cool in high school. I didn't go to parties. My first party was in college. My first party was in community college. So it was like still in my hometown area, which was even weirder because I was like, oh, this is what high school parties probably was like. And this kind of feels like it is a high school party. And I'm in college. Why am I here?
Cool. I've never even been to one. Ever.
A party?
Like not with people from school, I guess.
Fair.
Parties at like RTX. That's the extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. They're better anyways.
You have clout though. Yeah, they probably are.
Yeah. I don't think I missed out on much.
But yeah, so like, but I definitely don't. It's weird because we talked about this earlier where it's like, it feels like high school, you know, like the dazed and confusion of it all, the not knowing what your life is going to be, not really being sure of like what you're doing or who you're supposed to be, or if life will get better or if life will get worse, or if just like, is the world supposed to, are we just doing things to do things to build to a time that's supposed to be better? Will it be better? Will this be what I look back on and be like, these are the best days of my life? Like, I remember my history teacher in my sophomore year was like, you'll look back on life and high school will be your best memories. You know, you'll be like, high school was like the best time of my life. And I was like, oh man, is she right? And I got to college and I was like, oh no, she's a fucking idiot.
She's wrong.
And it's this weird disconnect that which I think I keep going back to of like, they're chilling, but they also in a weird way value high school in a way where I'm like, dude, high school doesn't matter. But also I remember being in high school and high school very much mattering. So it's this weird dichotomy of like, on one hand, this isn't what I think high school actually is, looking back on it, where I'm like, yeah, none of the things I did mattered. None of the stuff that was going on mattered. It was all bullshit. But in the moment, it does matter. Getting those Aerosmith tickets matters. Like signing something for your coach matters. Not that I had a coach. I didn't play sports. I was unathletic. But yeah, people weren't as big of a dick. People weren't hazing each other. Like definitely a lot of the extremes of this movie didn't exist in my high school. But and like there wasn't massive parties that I was invited to. Like, I didn't have invites to parties, man. I didn't know where they were. I would have gone if I could. I didn't. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like a high schooler or a 25-year-old who was just like hanging around the high schoolers all the time. I mean, there might have been that I wasn't aware of. Again, I didn't go to parties.
We had like a few of those, but it was very specific. So I was in ROTC in high school. And so some of like the seniors that did graduate and then enlist, like they would come visit. And so that was kind of like, that was kind of weird and cringy. I mean, I didn't want to say anything. Like some of them, it's like, yeah, it's like you're only a year older than me. So yes, it really is cool seeing, like, you graduated last year, so it's cool to see you come visit. But some of them at the same time, I was like, man, like, I feel like you're just kind of playing pretend, like, you know, if that, oh man, I still got too real there.
No, I have that with like, I have that with college still, where LMU, where I went to college, is shut down now. But my girlfriend, Ava, who has been on this podcast, she is a senior. So like this, and I graduated last year. So this entire year when I go, and she lives on campus. So when I go visit her, when I go stay with her, I'm on campus. So I see like people from college, and I'm at like the college coffee shop, and it feels really weird where I'm like, I'm not comfortable being here. I feel like I'm, if not viewed as trapped in this like college bubble still, or like at one point, my friend was having a Halloween party, but she was inviting like all the people from the fraternity I was in, and like specifically the college kids. So I was like, I know this is technically my friend's party, but it feels like a college party, and I feel weird going to that. But Ava's going to that, so I'll go, and I still like, it's a weird thing. It's a weird environment. Yeah. So moving on from that, I talked a little bit about this, like, and we talked a little bit about this already. This movie has a lot of like sexism and homophobia and problematic things. And I chalk some of that up to like, it's the 90s.
Yeah.
But I also chalk some of that up to like, it's the 90s representing the 70s.
Right.
So I feel like they were probably trying to portray some of the more like toxic ideas and toxic masculinity and like sexist portrayals. And also like realistically, when I was in high school, even now, I had a lot of problematic ideas about like relationships and sex and women and things. And like those were things that I had to get over as I grew up. So it's not unrealistic to have boys talking misogynistically in high school about women, because boys still talk misogynistically about women in high school.
Right. That makes sense.
But how do you guys have any thoughts on like how we portray that? Because on one hand, we don't want to deny that it's happening and that it exists. We don't want to do like a 70s story that acts like everything's like perfect and magical and none of these problems exist, but it also perpetuates language and perceptions. Maybe. Do you feel like this movie did it well? Do you feel like there's a problem with like regurgitating these ideas, even if it is accurate to the time period? What do you think? I know this is very deep.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of a balancing act. So what I'm trying to ask myself is, like, if the perfect budget lands in my lap right now, and you and I can write and direct like a high school film right now, you know, that's something we'd have to ask ourselves. Like, we're 2020 and we're hella woke and we're very accepting of a lot of new things, and we're very aware of new ways to perceive the world. But we can't deny that there are still students out there and teachers out there even who are very ignorant, and you know, how much of that do we show? And I guess like it's gonna like maybe I'm accidentally copying out now, but like, man, I guess it just depends on the story and what you're trying to tell. And I guess they would just want to show, they showed just enough to show that like for all the older students that are acting like that, this is something that the younger kids are gonna have to deal with. And also like for the adults out there that are intolerant, this is something that the seniors are still going to have to either grow up facing or around. I feel like I'm losing my train of thought, but I feel like I was going somewhere with that.
No, I get it. It's a big question. Yeah. It's like, it's hard to know that line. Chloe, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, it did a pretty okay job. Like, I heard like some slurs, like, that wasn't great. But again, product of its time, representing a time even earlier than that. that's just kind of how people acted.
I'll say this:
Mhm.
if it serves the character, if you got a shitty character and he's saying shitty things, then that's cool. Like, not that it's cool, but like that makes sense. But Mitch, overall, like you said, is a pretty good guy. Even Randy's a pretty cool guy. Like, you know, like the characters that are should be our heroes. Like, it should make more sense to give them roles that aren't problematic. You know, like if you're going to include that kind of dialogue in there, make sure like it's going to the right characters.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you're
He froze.
You
sending
froze.
the wrong message.
Thought you both froze.
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
Somebody come get her. He's frozen like a stripper.
Please.
Somebody come get her.
Oh God.
I don't know why that stuck in my head.
Interesting. Yeah, it's weird.
Is he back?
Yeah.
He's
All right,
back.
cool.
Hey, my internet went out.
Uh-oh.
So you were saying,
Man, what was the last thing I was saying? What were we talking about? I got so okay. I'll say this. This is where I think I was with that. Like, just it depends on the writing. It depends on the characters. It should be character driven. If these problematic things existed, then give it to the hero. Give it to the villains if that's how you want to paint them, and only give these problematic lines to the heroes if the point of it is that they're going to learn that this is the wrong way of thinking.
There you go.
So,
do you feel like this movie did a good job of that? Because for me, like I think the thing that I'm most concerned about isn't like homophobic slurs and stuff, because we as a culture, at least now, have a much better understanding of like, that's bad.
Mhm.
And also I think they did do a very good job of giving it to like mostly the villains. I think it was almost entirely Ben Affleck who used it.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, but there's a lot of just like general misogyny about
Mhm.
women that is definitely things I've still seen in high school and even probably have expressed when I was in high school. And my concern becomes like, and maybe they just didn't know any better in that time period. So maybe it wasn't a case of like, oh, we're just trying to be representative of the time. But I do have that worry that like subtler things that aren't just like a bad word, but like ideas of, like when Slater's talking and he's like, oh, all the women in our grade are like useless because they don't sleep with all the guys or aren't good at it or something. It's like, that's a really problematic way to portray what a woman's like
just a little bit
value to society is, but also just like they don't owe you anything. They don't have to have value for you.
For me,
they don't exist for you.
Yeah, and for me, those lines, like, for me, I was like, well, yeah, like we're re-emphasizing that, like these kids, even if they're the kind of kids that we're along the ride for, like that's kind of the reality. Sometimes our friends are shitty too.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's the problem. Is like, I mean, like I keep going back to like I definitely said shitty things in high school, and I like to think that I was a pretty decent person in high school, and that I was like not trying to be a bad person or like trying to be misogynistic or thought I was. So it becomes that issue of like, it's not really accurate to pretend that the only people who say bad things and have bad ideas are bad people. There's just kind of this culture in high school of like that. But are you reinforcing it for high schoolers who see these movies, or like younger people who see these movies and go, oh, it's okay because these characters who are the good guys do it? I got more the impression that like, hey, like this is the way they talked and this is probably the way your friends talk to you. So like, it's, for me, it was more of like part of capturing that authenticity, not trying to give permission, like, hey, we know y'all say this, and so we're saying it's okay to say this stuff to you. It's more like we're acknowledging that you think, like, because the audience is what, kids, right? And it's like, you think we don't know, but we know, you know, by including lines and situations or scenes like that in the movie, it's showing like we know what's up. You know? It becomes a difficult thing, I imagine, for anyone trying to tell stories of like youth, where, you know, youth can be dumb and obnoxious and bad, and how do you deal with that? Yeah, fairly. I imagine it's also hard to write like 14-year-olds hooking up with people, because you're like, I imagine from Richard Linklater's perspective, who is older when he made this movie than I am now, he looks at them the same way, where he's like, these are children, but this is the story, and these are how people that age would react to things. So I got to do it. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, what we bring as writers into a script can affect that too. And something that we don't understand this for too long. We can talk more about this offline, but hold on. I guess one way in particular I might give an example is that, like, so I'm trying to write something right now, and it is like
coming of age, because that's like what I like to watch, and they say you should write what I like to watch. So I like Dazed and Confused is very much in tune with the kind of thing I would like to make someday. So it's what I'm practicing on right now. And yeah, I'm definitely asking myself, like, well, I'm writing what's most familiar to me. And now that I'm much older, I'm aware of so much that happened in high school, even if I didn't interact with it. So is it more authentic to speak to experience I had, or is it more authentic to talk about everything now that I have more of a top-down view, even if it's something I didn't experience? And if I do exclude these things because I feel like they don't serve the story, will certain audiences feel like I was too scared to include that, or that I was purposely excluding it? Like, I get in my head about that kind of thing. So yeah.
And like, we see that conversation about like the 80s now, where, you know, Stranger Things is a very 80s nostalgia show that doesn't address a lot of the problems of the 80s. And it gets a lot of criticism for that. And then there's like Stranger Things, which is very steeped in the homophobia and bigotry of the 80s. So you get this, like, the 80s had a lot of child abductions, and Stranger Things is about children disappearing, or not, or it. I don't know why I kept saying Stranger Things.
It's fine. Same thing.
Is about child abductions in the 80s. And that's, you know, like really showing like the fear and the danger. And like, there are aggressive kids, and there are like homophobic kids, and there's a bully who cuts someone. And then you have Stranger Things, where it's like, everyone's kind of nice. Things are chill. Racism doesn't exist.
Well, except
and
for one
it
guy.
is like, does it exist, or does racism exist in Stranger Things?
Billy.
Billy's a dick.
Yeah.
But Billy's portrayed as like, hey, there's this one bad guy.
That's true. He's like the one.
Yeah. Hey, you know the one asshole? Everyone else, they're chill.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
You can live an ideal world.
Yeah, but it becomes that balancing act of like,
right,
how far do you go? How accurate are you? Do you have to be accurate? And I don't, know the answers to that.
Depends. Yeah.
This brings us to rate that soundtrack. Guys, how good is the soundtrack?
Oh my god, so good.
So good.
11 out of 10.
Do you have a favorite song that you heard on the album? For me, it's definitely Bob Dylan's Hurricane, which is biased because I already loved Bob Dylan's Hurricane going into it. Bob Dylan.
I think Slow Ride. Like, this is the last song before the credits roll, and I just really like that. It's super groovy.
That's fair.
Nice.
I'm trying to think. There are so many good ones. Probably the one that plays when the classes end and everybody's going out. And
School's out for summer.
School's out for the summer. That's a good song.
Yeah.
It's, again, with the nostalgia. It's like, oh, it's such a good feeling when like the last bell rings and school's out for the summer and you're free, and it's a good feeling.
We've all seen High School Musical 2. We know that feeling.
Oh, yeah. Great movie.
That song's stuck in my head now.
Me too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Christian, as an Austinite, an Austin man, an Austini, how do you feel about this portrayal of Texas, of Austin? How do you feel about like Richard Linklater as a figure in the Austin film scene?
I'm really glad to have him around. As far as I know, he's still good. I'm always super nervous to even mention celebrity names because I don't know what I don't know. But
I've heard nothing bad about Richard Linklater.
So far, so good.
I think you're safe on that.
Yeah, no, he's super. Everything he's made. So growing up, I always knew I wanted to make films, and I didn't really know what kind. And everyone's always like, "Hey, you're gonna grow up and be like a Spielberg or something." Huh? I'm like, I don't really like those. Like, so many of the popular films that people were like, "Oh, like this is what you want to make," like, because it's such an abstract thing to say. Like, I want to go into art, whether it's saying I want to be music, paint, film, photo, whatever, but people want to relate. And so they try to grab on things like, oh, like you want to make kind of Star Wars kinds of things. Like, I didn't really I'm not trying to sound hipster or nothing like that or whatever, but like, cause obviously I love popcorn movies and flicks. I love all that too, but that's the kind of thing I like to watch. And it's not exactly the kind of thing I'd like to make. And so finding Rich Slater films like Dazed and Confused, the Before Sunrise series, Boyhood, like, even Everybody Wants Some, like just his films just all have that flavor of what I like to see, what I like to watch, what makes me feel most comfortable. And I feel like I lost track of the question. But you were asking about Austin. Okay, wait, I remember now. Yeah, so I am very, glad to know that a voice like that, right, like Richard Linklater's, comes from Texas, and that he likes showing it off when he can or however he can. And yeah, I think even though, like I said, this is movies meant to me just like town in Texas instead of like embracing like, hey, this is Austin, like, because then it would have probably like a lot of the scenes would have been more like, hey, they're going to Barn Creek or they're going to 6th Street or something like that. Like, because even in the 70s, like Austin had its personality, it's live music capital of the world kind of vibe. But like, yeah, instead it's like, no, this is going to be small town Texas. And like it captured that vibe. Yeah. If Wikipedia is to be believed, because I'm checking it right now,
it is supposed to be set in Austin, but I think it's supposed to be like, oh, this is the very outskirts of Austin suburbia, and like these teenagers aren't necessarily like going into the city.
Yeah. In that case, yeah, it definitely captures that kind of vibe, and I think it portrays it very well. Like all the character, it's not so. So we watched Brink during PAX for the first time, and yeah, it really embraced the whole like, yeah, this is LA, it's California, it's sunny and everything, and I feel like Texas, people think Texas, they think like, yeah, like the ranch or the border for narcos or something like that, and like or the desert, and you don't usually get to see this side of Austin. It's just kind of the middle class kind of like just the vibes, like we keep saying, right? It's all very approachable characters. Even the jerk ones are kind of like, not that they're redeeming, it's just that like you recognize it. It's all very familiar. And
yeah, it feels very Friday Night Lights to me, where it's like the small town. Yeah, the small town, football's important, everyone knows each other kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it captured it really well. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of like my summers, like in the smaller towns in Texas. Yeah, I think it captured it really well.
Awesome.
And it was really fun watching it again and just being like, oh, I know where this is. I know where, like I mentioned earlier, like the Top Notch is familiar, Emporium is familiar. And I mentioned earlier that the football scene in the last scene, like where they are all just getting high and stuff. Like I spent so many Fridays there because in ROTC, we would be like with the flag guard, like giving like at that same football field. Like that football field is 5 minutes from my house practically. It's not in the Oscars. It's just right in the middle of like just regular out. Yeah. Like if you just move the camera like that, like you see the highway, like it's, but yeah, that's like, I get really nostalgic at that scene. Cause I spent so many Fridays like at football games, like with the RTC crew, like presenting the national anthem and stuff, for the start of each game and stuff. And
that's so cool.
Yeah. Lots of good memories out that field. And, I'm trying to think if there's any other, like the whole Moon Tower vibe. Like, I don't know where that one in particular is, or if it's just a Texas thing or everywhere thing. That's the weird thing about Texans is that Texans always want to think that things are just theirs, like, oh, Moon Towers, that's just a Texas thing. But I'm trying to be open-minded and be like, no, that probably isn't everywhere kind of thing too.
I've never heard of it.
But that's definitely like, so I don't know where that one specifically is, but we definitely have like different patio bars that will have Moon Tower type things, and we call it the Moon Tower. And so, yeah, I think it just did really a good job capturing.
What's the point of a Moon Tower?
In the script for that, they said that it was for construction workers who were building the power plant, and so they needed a light
so is that like a consistent thing? Is it like, because you're saying, oh, the patio bar has like a moon tower. Oh, so is it?
So in the context of patio bars that are moon towers, like, hey, we're going to the moon tower. Like, yeah, like it's actual location. It's not like an open field like it was in the movie. But we have a moon tower bar, and yeah, it's a patio bar, but it has like a very tall, like structure just like this one with a bright bulb that lights everything. I mean, there's. It's a proper bar, so there's lights and everything too. It's not like in the scene.
So do you think it's like, so would you say it's probably like this script is accurate? They're usually for construction. That moon tower was there and a patio bar was just built next to it? Or was it like sometimes moon towers are just built for the vibe?
I think moon towers are built specifically for construction purposes. And just like in this film, they're appropriated by the youth. And now, to get kind of dark, the corporations are like, hey, the kids, they like this nostalgia vibe, so let's do that too,
Capitalism's come for it.
Again,
as capitalism comes for everything. You're not getting dark. Our consistent theme of this podcast is
Capitalism is a nightmare. Yes.
Capitalism is a demon.
I would like to think like so they mentioned the pancakes and everything, and like I know that Denny's and IHOPs are a dime a dozen and are everywhere too, but I'd like to think in my heart of hearts that they are very specifically referring Kirby Lane Cafe, which is a chain and it's an Austin based place that is like it's known for their pancakes, and in Boyhood at the end, I don't know if y'all have seen Boyhood. Have y'all seen?
I've seen it. Yes.
Well, there is a scene at Kirby Lane, and so I would like to think that this is that when they're talking about late night pancakes, they're talking about because that's a very Austin experience, especially for college kids because they have There's one like by UT campus. So
yeah, good shit,
guys. Do you have any other thoughts about this movie before we move on to some games?
Just it's a good time, and if anyone's listening to this and hasn't seen it, it's a good time.
I really enjoyed it.
Again, the vibes immaculate, so good.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear y'all enjoyed it because I thought at least Ben had seen it. Just because like now that I'm older, I'm aware that it is the kind of title that people would drop like, oh yeah, Dazed and Confused. Like maybe some film students have it. The poster in their back or something like that.
They definitely do. I almost certainly have friends who have posters of this. I don't know who they are, but I guarantee you I know people with posters of Dazed and Confused.
But it's cool to hear that both of y'all liked it overall. So
yeah.
Makes me happy.
Thank you for getting us to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So before we move on to games, actually, I'm going to go through a couple little facts you may not have known. This movie has Renee Zellweger as an extra in so in the scene when Matthew McConaughey is talking about like how high school girls always stay the same age, there's a girl who passes them in like a kind of rainbow striped top, and that's Renee Zellweger.
Interesting.
McConaughey's part was supposed to be big, or was not supposed to be that big. I told you that already. There's no evidence to suggest that George Washington grew psychoactive weed.
But I love the story.
But he did grow hemp. And that's what the Declaration of Independence is made out of.
Nice. Love it.
National Treasure 3, they're still in the Declaration of Independence again, but this time to get super fucking high.
We're gonna smoke it. Hell yeah. I'm down.
Universal wanted this movie to be PG-13, but Linklater pushed back because of how many fucks and cussing and weed and drinking there was in the movie. And then later on, down the line, Universal was upset with him for not pushing the R rating further, saying, hey, you could have had like nudity and stuff.
No, I think this hit exactly the swing.
I think it was the perfect amount. Yeah, I think so nudity would have been like cheap for this movie.
It would have been too much, yeah.
I'm surprised to hear the R until you mentioned the language. Like, like language really gets you to R fast, but like
the language gets you to R fast, and they say fuck like 76 times.
Yeah. But I feel like
Ben Affleck is saying it constantly, yeah.
But I feel as far as content, like curse words and unfortunate lines aside, like it's a pretty watchable film. Like it's not. It's just like a grown-up version of the Sandlot kind of thing, kind of vibe, and just like a little less raunchy version of Superbad. Like these are all very universal, like kind of films that like everybody kind of latches onto. And like I'm glad they didn't try to really push, the R rating. After all,
me too. Linklater wrote the first draft for this in a month, and Universal fast-tracked it.
Oh my gosh, a month.
Yeah,
I've been spending like the last year on the same
first
script,
draft,
and I haven't even
first draft.
Okay,
I have no idea, and also like bear in mind, Universal was like on board with this, so it's not like Richard Linklater was sitting there in his free time trying to write a script. Richard Linklater was presumably like hunkered down all day, every day
on the job. Okay,
it's a different environment.
Yeah.
Originally, Linklater wanted to. So this movie's origin started as Richard Linklater just being like, I want to tell a story about high schoolers in the 70s. I want there to be a lot of music. I want it to be about like a good time.
Yeah, I think he checked all the boxes.
He did. But this movie was originally going to be way more experimental. So his original idea was he wanted it to be two people sitting in a car, driving around, listening to a ZZ Top album. And the entire movie would have been the exact length of that album. Wow. And just the movie starts with it being put in the player and ends the second the album ends.
Interesting.
But he eventually decided, and Christian, you touched on this, he decided he wanted way more perspectives in the movie. So he decided to sit down, write a script, and actually have like a lot of different characters, a lot of varying perspectives on the high school experience. he views it as an anti-John Hughes movie, not because he necessarily like dislikes John Hughes. I don't know if he does,
wouldn't like John Hughes.
but because he never thought that high school had like the high stakes that a lot of John Hughes movies have.
Mhm.
So like Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles, there's like, you know, these grand things happening, and he's just like, honestly, everything was kind of low stakes in high school for me. I feel like we really wanted to get Aerosmith tickets one day, and we did that.
Mhm.
So that was his motivation, just kind of being like, you know, things just happen in high school. Not everything's just like big revelations all the time.
I mean, now that I hear you say it out loud, like that's probably like why I like it so much, is that it's like, it's not about like the big scheme that leads to the talent show or the prom or homecoming, or like those are always in the background of my high school experience. Like those were some other character, some other student was having that movie, and this was more like just the casual,
just chill.
Yeah.
We can't all be Ferris Bueller.
No.
Matthew McConaughey ad-libbed many of his lines.
Oh, wow.
Like
All
so
right.
many of his lines are ad-libbed by Matthew McConaughey.
Love it.
So Chloe, when you said Matthew McConaughey played himself, you are not that far off.
Perfect.
The movie came out in 1993. It has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't super successful in the box office. It made $8 million on a $6.9 million budget. Nice. But it's done really well. It's become a cult movie, as you know, and it's done really well since then. So like its album did really well, and when it released the album, and its DVD sales, Blu-ray sales, all that has done very well for it too. So it's definitely profitable now, but initial release wasn't super profitable. Also, its $6.9 million budget, 1/6 of that. So about $1.15 million was just licensing music.
I mean, I believe it. I mean, that's a lot of music. I mean, I think pretty much every track was recognizable except for one. Like there were only a few that I didn't recognize.
I read that figure before I watched the movie, and I was like, oh man, like, is it really worth it? But the music is so integral to this movie, and I feel like the music, like, I feel like sometimes this movie feels like a very drawn out music video in a good way. And I definitely think that was the right decision.
For sure.
Yeah. He originally also wanted to get, what band? He wanted to get Led Zeppelin, I believe. Yes, he wanted to get Led Zeppelin music in this as well, because the title, Dazed and Confused, is a reference to a Led Zeppelin song.
Wow.
But he wasn't able to get permission from them, so that was sadly not possible. This brings us to games. Chloe, it's time for Nailed It with Chloe Naylor.
Let's do it.
Review the sexiness of Ben Affleck's character in this movie.
Okay, he's like a bigot and an asshole, but like he's young Ben Affleck, so he's still sexy.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, he's on a scale. How about like a 8.5, 8.5?
On a scale of sexy Ben Afflecks, where does he fall on the Ben Affleck sexy meter?
Ooh, that's tough because there's like different levels, okay? Because there's young Ben Affleck, who's way different than like current Ben Affleck. They're very different sexinesses.
So would you say young Ben Affleck is like one side of the scale, and current Ben Affleck's like the other side? Is Ben Affleck just not sexy now?
No,
is it different types of sexiness?
Different types of sexy. He's more like, I don't know. He's got more of the dad vibes, sexy
dad vibes,
salt and pepper,
giant ass tattoo on his back.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that's him.
I didn't know about
I forgot about that. He's dating
He has
Anna
a
de Armas
giant.
now.
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
Bastard. Lucky bastard.
Lucky bastard. Listen, she probably watched this movie. She's like, he's sexy. I'm like, I get it.
Do you think she watched this movie or Armageddon?
It's gotta be Armageddon.
She was in love with him. Yeah, that's a sexier movie for him.
Well, 100%. So he's sexier there than he is here, but still sexy.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't see it. Not in this movie, anyways. Like Armageddon, I get it. Paycheck, I get it. Anything after this movie, I get it. It's just, I think his hair is extra curly and extra red. And
his hair is extra curly.
Something about the shirt. I think it's just everything about him in this movie. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, yes, Ben Affleck is sexy, but not in this movie.
Oh, yeah. That's fair. I
I
understand.
respect
I'm speaking
that.
for me. I'm speaking for me. I did not.
No,
think
and I get
this-
it totally.
I did not mean to go over the
Sexiness
8.5.
is subjective. It's fine.
Yeah.
In the beginning of this movie, so many characters had long hair that I was like, oh my God, is Ben Affleck going to have long hair?
I was
And
worried.
frankly, I'm upset that he didn't. I wanted to see that.
It's fine. It worked out for him, I think.
I mean, yeah, he's Ben Affleck now. So like,
I mean, yeah.
he's Batman.
Yeah. Well, used to be. Yeah.
Guys, this brings us to executive action. If there was one or two things you could change about this movie, if you were a producer and Richard Linklater was there and you're like, Richard, I'm funding this. I need you to change this thing. You have full authority to. Is there anything you would change? What would you change?
Man, I forgot that y'all did this. I didn't have anything ready. In
Yeah, it's
particular.
fine.
You want me to start with mine?
Yeah,
Go for it.
please.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mentioned that the Kevin, I believe his name is, the kid who gets his party
his parents,
like
yeah, the
canceled by
party.
his parents, was meant to be a bigger role. And that's kind of my issue, is that I feel like the pacing at the beginning of this movie is really slow before everything actually like gets moving. Even though it's like, even though this is a very like meandering film, I do feel like the opening act is still a bit too slow. And I think the biggest problem is just that we're spending a lot of time on this character who basically disappears once his party gets canceled.
Yeah.
So
Pretty much.
I think the thing I would change is just having the canceled party being a line that's mentioned, like everyone's getting ready and then you hear the party's canceled. Maybe you see one of the characters show up at this house and you see the parents and you're like, ah, shit, the party got canceled.
Mm.
And then just like, tighten up the opening of it by just pulling him out. He has
do get
scenes
all
I
that.
like.
We do get some scenes like that. I think you just right.
Yeah, no, like there are scenes of characters mentioning it. I just would.
Just
I would
cut
just-
out that whole part.
I would cut out him. I'd cut out like seeing him, seeing his parents. There's good scenes there. I don't disagree.
It's true.
But I think for the pacing of the film, personally, I thought it slowed it down. And there's so many characters happening all at once that it kind of made it harder. Like in the beginning, I was struggling to keep track of like who's who. Some of the brunette girls look very similar.
That's
They're
true.
changing clothes. I'm like, who are you?
That's fair.
The main character and this Kevin kid both have long hair and it's dark. And I was like, are you the same person? I don't know yet.
Yeah. No, I had the same issue.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Nope, that's not.
Hey, let me
A
tell
bunch
you
of
this
white
about-
men and white women, they all look the same.
Yes.
Let me tell you this about Kevin though. For years, I thought that was Jon Stewart. He's like the same kind of big eyes and kind of like really square skull. Like I
see it.
thought that was him for like the longest time.
That'd be iconic if it was. I would love that.
You're right. I don't really have any.
The only thing I was
specific-
like, there's only one thing I want to change, if to give
Okay.
you a little time to think about one, Chloe, if you wanted to think of one still. But this is not a perfect film, but it's pretty close, and so I'm nervous about
Sure.
how something I change might diminish it. So I'll go ahead.
That's
it's
fair.
not like we're making real changes here. It's all about hypothetical. So like I might have fun with it. Yeah. So my
It's all
only
about
thing-
like,
my only, which I don't like. This is just something I would want more selfishly. I don't even think this would make the film better, but like, if I could executively just ask them to tone down O'Bannon, Ben Affleck's character just a little bit, just a smidge, just like in some of the, it's not even in the lines. If he just toned down the performance just a bit, he just goes really for the character. Like when he's breaking the paddle and just like everything is. I feel scared for my life when I see this character like on screen.
yeah, you hear that, Ben Affleck? Fuck you. Fuck your performance. Fuck your chicken strips.
He's gonna
It's just
listen to
chicken
this
strips.
specifically and know.
It's just so real. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of is like I would be like, can we do that again?
Okay.
Just bring it from a 12 to like an 8.
Mm.
Yeah,
Clay, what about you?
I could
You got anything?
deal without maybe beating some of the boys' asses, but it's a lot. He gets really into it, like homie.
See,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is like the whole like the piggy line, like, oh, like that was so bad. Like, I don't like that.
I get that.
Yeah, but
That makes sense.
it's fine. Once he disappears, he's gone. So
Yeah.
It's true.
yeah.
So, guys, this brings us to the end of our episode. We used to have trivia, but like it's just me and Chloe now for the most part. So,
Yeah.
I feel like y'all gave all
We
the
have-
trivia, right? I feel like
Huh?
this whole episode had fun trivia.
Well, I mean, like we
That's
used to do
true.
like trivia where I was like, Chloe and Logan, what's the answer to this?
Oh,
Logan isn't around now.
Yeah.
It's also annoying to try and figure out trivia sometimes because some movies just aren't as like well suited to trivia as others. So, you know, it's
I hear
whatever.
that.
We have it when we have it.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our wrap up, our closing thoughts. Guys, what are your closing thoughts on this movie? Anything you haven't said yet?
Where can I? Anything I haven't said? I'm just repeating myself because the soundtrack slaps. The vibes are great. Reminds you of a summer night with your friends, which is something I hope we can experience this summer. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I'm glad you had us watch it.
Yeah, I hope more people find this film. I mean, I it's with Criterion, so I know it's on their streaming site, but like nobody has that. So like, I just wish more people
It's on
would
their
see
streaming
it.
site.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but nobody's subbed as Criterion, streaming site.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not. Oh, that's what you said. Oh,
It's
wow.
not, no.
See, that's what I'm saying is like more people need to see this. I feel like, we have the context. We can watch this. You can see this. You can show this to like a middle school or high school kids and they know this character's bad. Don't do that. And this character's cool. I get that.
Mhm.
Like they get that parental guidance, all this stuff. Like, I just feel like people need to
sit down with your teenagers and be like, don't be this shithead.
Yeah.
Do be this shithead, but not when he's doing this shithead stuff.
Yeah.
Do be this person. Never be that person.
But just in general, like I think people need to see. People are just so like, if people aren't like me, then like fuck them, and like that's wrong. Like this is a good example of like, hey, sometimes circles mix and mingle, and people that start off not getting along start becoming friends. Taking people like life is much more complicated, and this gives you a nice little example that like, hey, like just vibe,
Just vibe.
chill,
Yeah,
just chill.
You don't have to stick to the status quo.
Just get lit, man.
No.
Just get lit. You feel free to edit this out, by the way.
I definitely won't.
But I got lit when I watched this.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like,
That feels like the way to do it.
Absolutely.
and it's the first time. Like anytime I've watched this, it's just been whatever, just sober, whatever,
Very
But
nice.
I was like, man, it's on lockdown. Fuck, I don't want to light up. So
Might as well, right?
I got in the spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I really like this movie too. I also think it's cool to be able to look back at movies set in the 70s and set in the 80s and made in the 70s and the 80s and be like, oh yeah, other generations have gone through very similar things to what we've gone through.
Mhm.
Like we aren't unique because we are rebelling against like what the adults are telling us to do or because we feel lost. And it's not to say that there aren't any generational differences or to say that like there are not valid criticisms of things people in the past have done or like the economy that our age is entering into and stuff. But it is also nice to remember that we all have felt this way and we've all been here. And sometimes adults need that reminder too. Adults need to remember, when you were a teenager in the 70s or the 80s or whenever, like, were you really that much better than your kids? Were you really like back in my day, we were fine? Like, no, you weren't. You were this fucking shit. You were getting high and you were joking around with your friends. And you were going to parties in the woods.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more movies like this that are a bit more just like down, chill. We got Everybody Wants Some, which was like, it's supposed to be the spiritual successor to this, but it was kind of like, there's not really there wasn't even that much space for this kind of film back then. Like, it's cool that it made the success, it got the success that it did, but even now, fast forward to now when we have Netflix, YouTube, Vimeo, everything, like it's really hard for a movie like this to find a place. Without at least a name, which back then, we have lots of good names in this film now, but I don't know who they would have been really trying to promote at the time.
I don't think they were trying to promote anyone. I guess Ben Affleck was probably coming off of. Was Ben Affleck even coming off of? 1 second, let me check something. Was Good Will Hunting before this? I feel like it wasn't. Good Will Hunting was 97. This was way before Ben Affleck had like a significant. Because I was gonna say like Good Will Hunting is what made Ben Affleck, and this was way before that. So this was him being a very small time actor.
Yeah.
So, Christian, this is going to be a good question for you. It's time for If This Then That. If people liked this movie, what do you suggest they watch?
I recommend pretty much anything under Linklater's belt. So I'll go over some of those again. There's Before Sunrise. If you like this, I actually, I would recommend to you too. If y'all get a chance, check out Everybody Wants Some. I think that's a horrible title. I think that's probably what shot them in the foot, was naming it.
I've seen it.
Everybody Wants Some. You said you saw it?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was the interesting thing going into this movie, because I knew Everybody Wants Someone's like a spiritual successor. So I was expecting very similar things. And I like this movie a lot more than that one. So that was fun. For me.
So Everybody Wants Some. It doesn't have the same magic as this one. It's still cool in its own right, but like if you're down, but yeah, just anything by Linklater. So Boyhood, I really enjoy it. Some people don't. Like it. Just like if you want, like I keep trying to like give it a little asterisk, but I guess again, the whole premise is that if you did like this, then yeah, it should be safe to recommend. You have Boyhood, the Before series. What else did he do that I liked? Well, I guess I'll jump off of that and think.
School of Rock.
School of Rock. Yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting because that one is so.
It doesn't feel like Linklater.
It does. Like when you say it, then I can connect those dots in my head. Like but it is a bit more of a Hollywood film.
It's fucking
like it's still indie, but it's leans towards more Hollywood vibe. So I think
it is Hollywood. I think that was one of his. I don't think School of Rock was indie.
No. Oh, okay.
I think that was like straight up a Hollywood movie.
Well, I guess so. It's got like Jack Black, Miranda Cosgrove.
Yeah.
And the principal, I forget her name, but she was a well-known actress. Yeah. So those are like a few recommendations from me. Just anything from Linklater.
Yeah. Chloe, you got anything?
I've got a few that aren't as chill, but like
sure.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, having fun. That like Superbad and
Superbad's a really good comparison.
Yeah.
I never got to see Good Boys, but that seemed like an elementary school to junior high version of this.
Yeah.
I can see that for sure. I haven't seen it yet either, but I
probably
check it out.
The same vibe. That and like Sandlot, but
Sandlot.
I would say, going off of like, because you mentioned John Hughes movie with Ferris Bueller, and obviously he considered this like an anti-John Hughes movie.
Right.
But I think that this and Breakfast Club definitely have a lot of similarities, where it is like very different perspectives, people like getting along with each other. The stakes are definitely like lower. There's developments of like romantic things happen and like people come together and like Breakfast Club fist bump and punch and everything. But I think it definitely, Breakfast Club of all the Hughes movies, veers the closest to this in my opinion. Also, Breakfast Club is just really good, and also on their Criterion Collection.
True.
What else? There's Sing Street in terms of like more modern. It's also set in the 80s, and it's a coming of age. It's got a lot of family dynamics. It's definitely also like a bigger movie with bigger stakes and stuff, but it's also one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm gonna rep it anyway. And then finally, not a movie, That 70s Show.
That too. Yeah. You're right. I wanted to watch that after I finished this movie.
Yeah, this movie has such That 70s Show energy.
For sure.
I could totally see this movie being like the movie that 70s Show is based on.
I mean, I feel like I heard similar comparisons. Yeah.
Even the way the driving scenes in this movie are shot. That's the other scene I love. I love when the kids are racing away from the school while Ben Affleck's character is in the truck chasing him down.
Okay.
Oh,
but like the way, going back to what I was actually saying, the way the car scenes are shot, like the head straight on, you can see everyone in the car. It looks like the way that 70s Show's opening song is.
You're right.
So I definitely get that 70s Show vibes here. And I wouldn't be surprised if this movie inspired that 70s Show.
Yeah.
100%.
Guys, before we leave, what is one cool thing you've seen or done this week? I realize we're all stuck inside, so probably one cool thing you've seen.
I should have mentioned this last week, but I watched Knives Out finally.
Yes!
Oh.
Yes!
I have not seen it, so
How'd
please
you feel?
don't spoil anything.
I won't say anything spoilery, but it was really good. I really liked it.
It's so good.
It was a good time.
I just finished reading the script for Knives Out because Ryan Johnson tweeted it yesterday.
Okay.
And
So
I don't have the money right now to buy it, but God, I want to buy it so I can rewatch it, because just reading the script, I was so happy.
Nice. Yeah.
All right. Bottom line, I should see Knives Out.
Yeah.
For sure.
You should see Knives Out.
It's a really good.
I'm really excited to watch it now that I know everything, because like it was cool reading the script, first of all, knowing everything that was being set up and being like, oh yeah, like they placed this thing because they needed it then.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to watch the movie again too and be like, it's so good. I love that movie.
Details. Yeah. You said I would like all the, what did you say? I don't know, because I liked all the zingers. Like, aha, I got you there.
Yeah.
And you're right.
The weird jokes, the kind of puns, the donut holes inside the donut holes.
It's good shit. Daniel Craig with that accent. Shit. Oh my God.
I saw a tweet from Ryan Johnson where he was like quote tweeting someone, and someone said, for Knives Out 2, Ryan Johnson should have Daniel Craig use a different accent and never explain it. Yes. And Ryan Johnson quote tweeted and he was like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've thought of it.
You should do it. Good idea.
I love that, man.
I know you do.
What about you, Christian? Have you seen anything cool this week?
Nothing like super new. I rewatched Tron Legacy the other night.
Nice. Hell yeah.
I just needed to turn on my purple lights and blue lights, and I was like, I need to sleep, and I'm gonna throw on some neon cyberpunk,
Perfect.
I just
speaking Chloe's language,
and I ended up just staying up all night watching it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Love it so much. It's good. It's a great movie.
And I just finished watching. I mean, I know we're supposed to say one or two things, but I specifically want to bring this up.
Oh, you can say whatever you want.
So,
go for it.
My most recent episode of That Anime Pod, I have a guest on, and we're talking about an anime called "Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken," which is another really long and bad title. That it's like, why do they have these long titles? But I'm really gonna try to properly pitch it to you and Ava to watch, because it's about a high school anime club. And they're the underdogs, and like they have no resources, but they're, since Ava's in animation and I'm in animation, and you're in the film, and Chloe, you watch like Rooster Teeth and stuff like that, so you might dig it too. But like, it's all about just like this ragtag group of kids, and they're all girls, and they're just like, hey, we all love anime, we want to make it, and the student council won't let us, but we're gonna do it anyways. And so it's really cool. It's really fun.
I think I've heard about this.
It's good time. It's a good time. It's got some vibes.
Okay. Awesome. That's super cool.
Awesome.
I need to get into more anime. The only anime I watch is like My Hero Academia and Studio Ghibli, but like there's so much content in the world.
Yeah, but this one's nice, really short, 12 episodes, and it's like it's Perfect. Very like the animation's all very rough. Like it reminds me of like Rugrats or Ed and Eddie kind of style. Like it's like it's like not CalArts style, but like it's like it's got a cool look to it. And so I finished that season, and so I'm gonna try to. I have different anime that I'm targeting different people, and like I'm gonna create like a little video trailer, like, hey, you need to watch this, and this is why.
Awesome. I've been rewatching a lot of things. I rewatched Little Women this week for the first time since seeing it in theaters.
Yeah, sorry,
and it's like, that might be one of my favorite movies of all time. That might be my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but it hit so hard on rewatch. Just like the pacing felt a little off in the beginning when I first watched it, and this time I was just like smiling through everything. I'm in love with these characters. It's so well done. It's so well shot. This movie deserved best cinematography last year, by the way. I'm just going to say it.
What one?
The Lighthouse, not Lighthouse, which was also great. 1917, which to be fair, I've not seen 1917.
Okay.
So I can't argue that. But the cinematography of Little Women astounds me.
Okay.
And it's like, it's a type of cinematography that I feel like isn't as well respected by like Hollywood and awards, because it's a lot more, not natural, but definitely a lot more, I guess I'd say feminine. Okay. Whereas 1917, I'm assuming, is way more masculine because Roger Deakins and war and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say, style, like, it doesn't push like the contrast and saturation the way a lot of other films these days are. Like, it really, in my recollection of it, like embraced like more softer look. Like I was going to say natural light, but obviously it's a high production film, so it like to emulate the look of natural light. Yeah, it's
definitely got like a level of stylization to its visuals, but it's not anywhere near other things. It feels like kind of a happy medium between more stylized cinematography and like Lady Bird, which is very naturalistic.
Yeah, anyway. if you like Dazed and Confused, go watch Lady Bird, guys.
Also watch Booksmart if you like Dazed and Confused.
I still need to watch Booksmart, actually.
Booksmart's so good, dude.
It's on my radar. I just need to
It's on Hulu if you want to stream it.
I just got the credentials.
And What else have I watched? I watched Emma. That was pretty good. I watched Onward. That was fine.
Are theaters closed? Right, theaters are all closed, right?
Yeah.
I'm not imagining it.
Theaters are all
I can't
closed.
watch any of these. I have Alamo Pass just burning a hole in my wall. I need movie theaters.
I have AMC A-List, and they paused all of our accounts until movie theaters reopen, which is very nice of them.
Nice.
So that's cool. So I'm not paying that charge. I did spend money on Onward because I wanted to watch it, though. It was like $20 to buy it because that's the only way to like do this right now. And then I mentioned it to Ava after I spent the money on it, like 5 minutes after I spent the money.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's coming to Disney Plus in like a week and a half, right? And I'm like, what?
Nice. Good job.
But yeah, watch Onward. It's fine. It's fine. Don't.
Okay.
Emma's good. Yeah. And Little Woman's still amazing. And I love it. Also, Birds of Prey
Of
is
course.
out on video on demand now. So if anyone wants to drop $20 to own Birds of Prey and watch it, you should. It's fantastic.
It's really great.
You would have spent that money going to a theater.
It's fine. I do want to see Little
So good.
Woman. I probably would like it. I just gotta go find it somewhere.
You can borrow my account. I have it digitally.
Maybe I'll take you up on that.
I'll give you my login for Voodoo.
Okay, I'll let you know. Cool.
Dope.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been That Wannabe Film Class. Next week kicks off our new month in film. I feel it's a meme month, which kind of feels weird to me now because everything's going to hell.
Yes, it is. I forgot this
So-
is coming up.
Yeah. So Christian, I'm glad you're here so we can explain this month to you
Yeah.
because it'll be fun for us. So as you know, next month is April. April is the 4th month in the year.
Yeah.
This is also the year 2020, which means this is 420 month.
Oh.
Now,
Yeah, it is.
you might be thinking, Ben, are you guys going to like watch a bunch of stoner movies? No. That is far too easy.
Oh no.
See,
I'm wondering. Oh man.
this month is 42069 month, where we watch only movies that have a 69% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoa! Oh my gosh. All right.
I love it. I'm super excited.
Me too.
We're going to pull out some gems that deserve higher ratings, frankly. And we are kicking it off with Chloe's movie,
Yes.
Treasure Planet, which I'm super excited to watch because I haven't seen that movie since I was like 7.
Oh my
I don't
God.
remember it whatsoever.
Ooh, you're gonna have a good time, Ben.
I remember like moments. I have a couple
Okay.
images in my head of that movie.
I didn't watch it when it first came out, but in my college years, I did finally check out the thing. So I'm new to it and I appreciate it. I don't have the same maybe level of appreciation as people that grew up when it first came
Love
out.
that movie so much. Oh, I cannot
We-
wait.
We will see how, because like I
That
don't
was a
have any
69?
nostalgic love for it either. Because I just,
I can't tell I can't tell if like to be like it should be more than that, but that's just my own personal feeling, or if am I giving it too much?
I mean,
Maybe,
dude,
like,
say your feelings.
Yeah,
no.
speak
Who
your
gives a
truth.
shit?
It should be 100%. It's a perfect movie.
Yeah, I mean, my choice for 69% is also a movie that I think should be higher. Like,
I can't.
there's a lot of 69% rated movies on Rotten Tomatoes that deserve higher scores, and mine is one of them. Chloe definitely thinks hers is one of them. We'll see what I think. I don't fucking know.
I'm interested to see what you think. I can't wait to watch
Me
it again,
too.
though.
All right, Treasure Planet. Looking forward to it.
Hell yeah.
Guys, before we go, where can people find us? Christian, as our guest of honor, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PixelBrave, and I also have That Anime Pod, which has its own Twitter at That Anime Pod. I'm so used to after saying that going into the whole like rigmarole of that nerdy site, but I had to cut myself off. That's your job, yeah. Just I'm helping out with some videos and stuff, so follow that nerdy site too.
Nice.
Cool.
Chloe, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere at Echo Clo. That's on Twitter, that's Instagram, that's TikTok, Letterboxd, Twitch. I'm streaming more since we're all stuck in quarantine.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
I'm gonna try to Twitch if I can.
That's a good-
I've been thinking about it.
I
You're
have
gonna
a
pass the
mic.
time.
I have a better mic than this one here. I have a better webcam than this right here. I just don't know how to be on, like y'all can see me, but this is just gonna be an audio podcast. I don't know how to be on and that's to even assume that anyone would, not that I even care. I want to just, so it's hard for me to get in a video game playing mentality Like, I have probably several $100s of games in backlog that are just sitting there waiting to be played.
Same.
But
Absolutely the same.
it's hard for me to get into video game playing mode, but if I make a production out of it, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if nobody tunes in, I am more likely to play a game if I'm like, oh, I'm going to Twitch stream it or something like that. So
Gotcha.
It also makes you feel, I think, more like productive, because there's definitely times when I'm playing a game where I'm just like, I'm just sitting here playing a game. But if I'm Twitch streaming, even if no one watches it, even if like it doesn't become anything, which is the assumption I would have with Twitch streaming, even if it isn't something that works out on my resume, at least I feel like I am in a hosting mode. So I'm practicing my person skills.
Yeah.
So I get you. I totally get you.
Nice.
I thought about doing that myself. And then my sister moved home, which I'm happy about, because if I was stuck here without her, I'd be very sad. But also that means that her bedroom that I was going to use as a setup is now her bedroom again. So rip.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, yes, exactly. Twitch, you can find Echo Clo on Twitch. Yeah, I didn't mean to derail that.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
We live for the tangents, man. If there's no tangents, what are we doing here? Talking about movies?
By the way, I will say I'm trying to get more used to watching stuff on Twitch. So sometimes, Chloe, when you come on, I watch that. When Andy goes on, I'll watch him. I've started learning how to, because I feel like if I get more into the habit of watching Twitch, I'll feel more comfortable being on Twitch. So yeah,
that makes sense.
I've been looking up like art streamers, people that just do like character art, because I want to start drawing and stuff. And so I've been watching that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm watching OKBs play Animal Crossing. So Twitch it's not so scary after all.
Yeah. Good time.
Yeah.
You can find me at Mr_Bento Box on Twitter, at Mr. Bento Box everywhere else, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok. I'm intending to make TikToks now that we're in quarantine, and yet somehow I haven't. Like every day I'm like, I'm gonna have so much time, I'm gonna make TikToks, and yet each day passes and I feel like I've both done nothing but also been busy. It's weird.
Yeah,
quarantine's a weird time.
It really is.
I don't think I could ever do TikTok. I think it's definitely like a left brain, right brain thing. Whichever side TikTok is on, like I can watch it and I love it, but I couldn't make it. I couldn't.
I get that.
Yeah. I could probably watch. I could probably watch TikToks all day. I could probably spend a whole day thinking of an idea and not think of one thing. Yeah. So I
there's
can
a weird
it's not
skill.
For me.
There's a weird skill to TikTok that I don't quite have down, and like it's scary to try and improve on it. But you work on things, you grow. Sucking at something's the first step to being kind of good at it. I think it takes
the same level of open-mindedness as improv. If you take an improv, I think like not that I've never taken one, but that's what I'm saying is like I don't know how to just be me on an open page, which I think is TikTok is very much like like there's different memes and formulas on things to play off of, but a lot of it's yes and. So here's this TikTok formula. How are you gonna make it yours? Like yeah.
Guys, if you like this podcast, review us and rate us on iTunes. We would love to hear what you think. You can also subscribe to us on whichever platform you choose. YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, obviously. We are part of That Nerdy Site. If you want to support That Nerdy Site, you can go to the website, thatnerdysite.com, and check out the other podcasts, such as Christian's That Anime Pod, as well as articles and stuff that are being made. You can also support That Nerdy Site at Patreon, patreon.com/thatnerdysite, where you throw us money and then we make things, and you understand how that works. This is one of those things that we make. Yeah, blew your mind there, didn't I?
Crazy.
This has been That Wannabe Film Class. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe out there. Social distance.
Wash your hands.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
Watch some movies.
Watch some movies.
Watch Little Women. Or Dazed and Confused.
Watch some movies.
Watch some movies.
Yeah. Be cool.